transfer. 2-1 offering a breaking ball that hits him, and that's one that Chad Adams is happily going to accept. Probably didn't hurt too much, and the tying run comes to the plate here in the form of Andrew Scully, who, remember, last year hit a big 2-run bomb in the Little East Conference tournament against UMass Boston. That's going to create a mound visit, and immediately
that's it.
The Beacons are going to bring in a new pitcher. Looks like it's going to be Josh Comiskey, the senior out of Lowell, and we'll be back after this break. Carasoto able to get 2 outs. The Beacons still 2 short. The new pitcher is Josh Comiskey, the senior in his second season with UMass Boston. Comiskey, 5'10", 200, another Northern Essex Community College transfer. We're saying that a lot. His first baseman, Daniel Benito. His shortstop, Trevor Bouvier. Also Northern Essex Community College products, and it's a big spot here. He'll face Andrew Scully, the top hitter in the Eastern lineup, with a runner on first. Scully, the tying run here with 1 out in the top of the 9th. Scully on the day, just the 1 hit, as he's been retired in 3 of his 4 trips. First pitch to Scully, fouled back, got a good piece on that swing. Comiskey was the guy who the Beacons were looking to be their closer, making his 7th appearance, 1-0 with a 3.0 ERA, 9 innings, 13 hits, 7 runs, 3 earned, 9 strikeouts and 4 walks. Opponents hitting .310 against him, and it's his first outing since the Beacons blew a big lead against UMass Dartmouth in their Little East Conference opening doubleheader. That was game number 2 as he takes that pitch. A little bit low there to Scully, 1-1. Comiskey's had some time to think about that, but as a senior, you're hoping that he's going to be able to focus here. And he and Carasoto, both guys know that they've got help in the other one. As that ball's hit out to right center, should be playable for Brian Dupree. Dupree backs up on it and makes the play for out number 2. That's a huge one. The Beacons have retired Scully now in back-to-back at-bats with a runner on, and will bring up Kyle Hart as the last hope for Eastern here in the top of the 9th.
Nice job by Comiskey coming in, throwing strikes, attacking Scully, even though he is a power hitter who represents the tying run. And now an opportunity to get a big opening victory with Dan Mantoni on the mound in Game 2. If the Beacons win this game, they have a great shot of getting a sweep, even against Gonzalez. And if a sweep does come to fruition, we talked about how big that is for the LEC standings.
He'll face Kyle Hart here with 2 down. Breaking ball off the outside corner. Ball 1. Hart in 4 at-bats has a double to right center. Line out to center, a fly out to right, and a ground out to third base as that ball bounces up there. Another nice job by Anthony Searles to keep it in front. And it's quickly 2-0 to the 5-hole hitter and right fielder. Remember, after the conclusion of this one, we'll have a short post-game show, and then we'll have game number 2 on a separate stream. You'll have to go back to littleeast.tv or beaconsathletics.com and click on our Game 2 video link as that breaking ball catches the corner. 2-1 here with 2 outs. Chad Adams is over there at first base. He's the run that doesn't matter quite as much. It's the Batter at the plate, Hart here, who would be the tying run. The Beacons with a 2-run lead thanks to a huge 2-run, 2-out double in the bottom of the 8th inning from Daniel Mantoni. Mantoni continues to be the Beacons' top player here in 2015. 2-1 pitch. That one's fouled off to the right side. Bonino giving chase. It's going to be a difficult play. Dives for it and just barely missed it as he was 2 rows into the right field bleachers and almost made that play. Would have been a great way to finish this game 1 as Bonino was taking some pop-ups and warm-ups in that foul territory trying to figure it out. And this is his first ever home game here at Campanelli Stadium, the junior in his first year with the Beacons, and that would have been a highlight reel play, a great effort play. 2-2 here, 2 outs. Top of the 9th inning as the Beacons look for their 6th win in 44 all-time contests against the Warriors.
My goodness, what an effort over there by Bonito at first base. Almost hurt me watching him.
2-2 effort, hit softly back to the shortstop Bouvier. He's going to give it over to the second baseman Fiala, and that'll do it, folks. UMass Boston came from behind. They have the lead, blew the lead, and then a huge 2-run double from Daniel Mantoni. John, your thoughts on game number 1?
Well, it's a big win for UMass Boston. Their ace goes in game 2, and whenever you're playing a doubleheader, you want to win the one where you feel like you have a more inferior pitching matchup. Now, of course, Orlando Gonzalez in Game 2 is going to be spectacular, but the win here today, and the most impressive thing for me was the bullpen. I mean, they came in after Kyle Zatrowski struggled early on and had to pitch 4 or 5 solid innings, and they pitched shutout baseball. Yeah, they got into some trouble. They hit some batters. They walked some batters, but you know what? They overcame the adversity that they had going up against a very good ECSU lineup. So coming to fruition today was a victory, 7-5, the final score. Beacons led at one point in this game 4-2, fell behind 5-4, and then rallied for 3 runs in the final few innings. And like I said, the pitching staff and most notoriously the bullpen are my players of the game as they came through with flying colors, as it was Witkowski, Corsuto, Comiskey, and, of course, the man we spoke about to begin the bullpen's game, Steve Consiglio, who came through in the end.
Yeah, just a tremendous effort. We talked about the pitching, and I don't know if the Beacons necessarily had the inferior pitching or the worst pitching matchup here in game number 1, but it was definitely the more...
Oh, I mean, compared to game 2 when you have Mantoni going.
The more ambiguous
one.
Both pitchers, great pitchers, both pitchers, all conference pitchers, but you weren't necessarily sure what you're going to get out of either one. It's always nice to take game 1 because you know at worst you're getting the split. Mm-hmm. So now in game number 2, the Beacons have that confidence. Eastern has to wonder, are we going to be able to get enough hits for Gonzalez? They've dropped 2 in a row. The Beacons now won 2 of their past 3 of their past 4, actually, if you go back to last Saturday against Rhode Island College. So the Beacons have already done something they don't do very regularly. Take 1 from Eastern, a chance to take 2. So that'll do it for game number 1 for our producer, Alexandra Carlos. My name is Seth Dorensky, joined by John Scudras here from Campanelli Stadium. We'll be back with game number 2 in just about 15 minutes here on the Beacons Broadcast Network. Make sure to check out of your current stream. Go to the other link for game number 2, and we'll be back. John Scudras on the call for game number 2.
Hello and welcome back to the Beacons Broadcasting Network. Along with Seth Orensky, I am John Scudras, getting set to bring you Game 2 of this Little East Conference doubleheader between your UMass Boston Beacons and the Eastern Connecticut State University Warriors. In Game 1, a back-and-forth topsy-turvy affair, the University of Massachusetts Boston won 7-5 to take the opener of this doubleheader against their rivals and the LEC's favorite at the beginning of the year. Not only was it a solid victory for all involved, but it was a significant milestone victory for the team's head coach, 11-year veteran Brendan Igabro, getting his 200th career victory. As you get a chance to take a peek at the team skipper as he gets his club surrounding him, we'll get them up for this game. And Seth, as we preview Game 2, we saw a lot of offense and a lot of fielding errors in Game 1. In Game 2, we don't expect to see quite as much offense with the duo of hurlers that are going to be on the mound for their respective clubs.
Well, we've got a pair of studs for these two teams. Orlando Gonzalez gets the start for Eastern Connecticut State. He already has a pair of tremendous starts in conference play, just mowed through Plymouth State in his Little East Conference debut. Already 1-0, a 2.28 ERA, 28 strikeouts versus just 8 walks. He's been phenomenal. Daniel Mantoni, his fastball velocity went up. He's added some breaking balls. He looks very good. And these two teams both going in Game 2 with their best pitchers. So even more pivotal for Eastern to get a great outing out of Gonzalez after dropping Game number 1. As one of the big things to watch here in Game number 2, both teams changing up their lineups. I think the Beacons intended to do that. Delvis Baez out there along with Ezekiel Sanchez, a little bit of a better hitting lineup here in Game number 2, trying to get some hits against Orlando Gonzalez. Coley Barker over there at third base with Daniel Mantoni on the mound. On the other side, we see some changes for Eastern. The first thing that pops up is Jeffrey Zajac. He's getting the start at second base after we saw some fielding errors up the middle for Eastern Connecticut State. And another player who will get the start in the middle infield, Mike Funaro, the freshman second baseman out of Northford, Connecticut, is getting the start at shortstop. So a different double play combo after that. Double play combo really struggled in Game number 1.
Absolutely. And for UMass Boston with Dan Mantoni on the mound, you mentioned Coley Barker is at third base. We'll go around the diamond, take a look at Brendan Igabro's defensive positioning here for Game 2. At first base, once again, Luke Nagel manning that position. Around the horn, it's Josh Lopez at second base. Trevor Bouvier at shortstop yet again. And the entry here in Game 2 with Mantoni on the mound at third base, number 38, Coley Barker. Left to right in the outfield, the left fielder for Game 2 is Delvis Baez. In center field, it's going to be Sal Francino again. And in right field, Ezekiel Sanchez brings his speed into the corner, and an opportunity for this very good defensive outfield to assist Dan Mantoni on the mound starting for UMass Boston. Dan on the year 1-0 with a 2.28 ERA in 4 starts. 27 2/3 innings. He's allowed 18 hits, 9 runs, just 7 of them earned, with 21 strikeouts and 8 walks. Most impressive thing for Mantoni, his ability to limit opposing base runners via the hit. Just 182 batting average against Dan this season. He has been everything they could have hoped and more as the de facto ace of this club.
Well, and Dan is 1-0 this season. He probably should be 3, maybe 4-0. Just had some phenomenal starts. In the Beacons season opener against Heidelberg, he left the game with the Beacons leading 7-1. They eventually lost 8-7. That was a tough game. He pitched phenomenally well against UMass Dartmouth, but got a no decision. He's a guy who has been really at the top of the class in Little East Conference play. The one thing to watch, though, you said that it's a very good defensive outfield. I'm going to differ with you. It's a very fast outfield. Delvis Baez and Ezekiel Sanchez don't start every game because their defense sometimes is lacking. Delvis actually only has 3 fingers on his throwing hand, so he doesn't have a strong arm. It's tough to limit base runners, but he does a nice job at the plate. He's an OBP machine, and he does a nice job defensively to keep himself in the lineup most times. So he didn't get the start in Game number 1 with the Beacons trying to limit Eastern offensively. Here in Game number 2, when base runners are going to be a premium, that's why he gets the start alongside Sanchez.
Jeffrey Zajac leads things off for the Warriors. He swings at the first pitch, a fastball fouled up the third base line out of play. Didn't the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have 3 fingers? That should be his nickname if it's not. Meanwhile, Nothing in one here as Dan Mantoni begins his afternoon. That one is a bit low, 1 ball and 1 strike. The lineup for the visiting Warriors here in Game 2. Zajac, the second baseman, leads off. Chad Adams batted third in Game 1. He'll be playing third and batting second as the 1-1 pitch is in the dirt. 2 balls and 1 strike. The designated hitter is Andrew Scully. He moves up to third. Corey Keene, who led off in Game 1, is at first base batting fourth. Kyle Hart maintains his spot in fifth in the lineup. He'll play right. Pat Saras is the 6-hole hitter. He'll play center. 2-1 pitch is in the dirt. 3 balls and 1 strike to Zajac. Joe Perez is in left field. He'll bat seventh. The 8-hole hitter, Mike Funara, is in shortstop. And the 9-hole hitter yet again is Tim Budd. He'll be the backstop for these Warriors. Behind 3-1 to begin the ball game. Mantoni's 3-1 delivery is on the outside corner to Zajac for strike 2. And good at bat for Jeffrey Zajac. A full count to begin things. Mantoni gets his sign from Searles. The windup, the 3-2 pitch. Check swing, and it's called strike 3. So Dan Mantoni fell behind 3-1 in the count. Battles back to get the leadoff hitter on strikes. 1 down for Chad Adams.
Not an easy situation for Zajac. This is the first time he's had the opportunity to face off against Mantoni. First time that any of these Eastern batters have. This is the sophomore's first appearance against the Warriors in his career, and he's just throwing a lot faster than any of the Beacons pitchers were in Game number 1.
Fastball beginning the at-bat to Adams on the outside corner for strike 1. Mantoni has been successful in limiting base runners all season long. The 0-1 pitch, that one's a bit high. 1 ball and 1 strike to Adams. In Game 1, Adams batted third, as I mentioned. He had a bit of an inauspicious day, only 1 hit, although he did reach base 3 times thanks to a hit by pitch and a walk. Here's the 1-1 pitch to the third baseman on the outside corner with a heater. 1 ball and 2 strikes.
And you can already see Mantoni working at a really fast pace. That's good for the defense. It'll keep them involved. And he's trying to get those bats up, which were so good towards the end of Game number 1.
Another fastball's high, evened up at 2 balls and 2 strikes with 1 out here in the top of the first inning. Scheduled to play 9 this afternoon after UMass Boston won 7-5 in the opener. Coming back from an early deficit as that one is on the outside corner, called strike 3. So back-to-back backwards Ks for Daniel Mantoni to begin things against a Warriors team that came into this game cooking offensively.
Yeah, Eastern was limited in that game number 1, though. They took a 5-4 lead in the 5th inning. Didn't score the last 4 frames, and now a difficult situation working against Mantoni, a guy who was just dominated pretty much everyone he's faced. Even the games he's struggled, he's kept the Beacons in the game.
Now the team's leading hitter, Andrew Scully, flies one to center field, and that'll be an easy play to be made out there, and the Beacons are out of the inning as it's squeezed by Francino. So 1-2-3 go the Warriors in the first against Dan Mantoni. We'll see what the Beacons have against Orlando Gonzalez in the bottom of the first inning. It's no score on the Beacons Broadcasting Network. As Orlando Gonzalez warms up to begin the bottom half of the first inning, let's get a look at the lineup that Brendan Eigebrodt will send out for his UMass Boston Beacons. At left field batting first, it's going to be Delvis Baez. The second baseman in the 2-hole is Josh Lopez. Dan Mantoni's on the mound. He's also the designated hitter. He's batting third again. Luke Nagel's at first base and in the cleanup spot. Trevor Bouvier hit a home run in Game 1 to left field. He's at shortstop batting fifth. The speedy Ezekiel Sanchez is batting sixth and playing right. The backstop, Anthony Searles, is batting seventh. The 8-hole hitter and third baseman is Coley Barker. And bringing up the rear after leading off Game 1, it is the center fielder Sal Frasino. And they'll be going up against the young southpaw Division II transfer Orlando Gonzalez. 1-0 with a 2.28 ERA, 28 strikeouts in 23 2/3 innings, a power pitcher with off-speed stuff to boot as well. And the first batter to face him, it'll be lefty on lefty as Delvis Baez steps up to the dish.
Baez, an OBP machine, working against a guy who normally mows down opposing hitters. This is a very fun matchup to start. Gonzalez just so dominant, and it was a piece of luck to some degree. He was a second semester transfer. Be interesting to see where Eastern would be without Gonzalez, who's been so good as one of their weekend starters.
1-1, first fastball low, second right down Broadway. Baez on the season, in his 16th game, he's hitting .371. 9 runs batted in as the 1-1 pitch is a hook on the outside corner for strike 2. 1 ball and 2 strikes to the Beacons' leadoff hitter and left fielder. Gonzalez working quickly. Left-hander winds and delivers. That one's grounded to shortstop. And a tough hop right through the wickets. And that one was a really tough hop to handle for Mike Funara, as a late bounce, perhaps off a rock there at shortstop, ends up resulting in a base runner early on. Tough call. They're going to give them an error. That's going to be their fifth or sixth error of the afternoon. E6 on the shortstop Mike Funera, and the Beacons have a leadoff base runner for Josh Lopez. Lopez on the season, .385 coming into the afternoon's affair. And Gonzalez delivers, and the Beacons attempting to bunt the runner along into scoring position, but this one foul up the first base line. 0-1 to Lopez.
And, John, this is the exact same situation the Beacons were in game number 1. Opening batter reached on an error. Josh Lopez coming up with a difficult pitcher on the mound. Think it makes sense to do the same thing. This time the Beacons could take a lead with a run. The way Mantoni is hit today and Nagel, you really just want to get those players up with runners in scoring position.
Pickoff move to first, not in time. Always got to keep an eye on those lefties. Usually very adept at holding runners on. Unless your name's John Lester, who really struggled in the opener for the Cubs. Back to this game, as that's a good bunt down. Lopez gets it down. Gonzalez, however, goes to first in time to get Baez. So good play by the left-hander on the mound, coming off to his right and making the play. So 1 down, sacrifice unsuccessful. Count it 1-6 on the putout. And UMass Boston has 1 out for Dan Mantoni. The base runners swap. At first, Lopez. Into the dugout goes Baez.
And that's the one place you don't want to put down the bunt in play right next to the pitcher where the pitcher has enough time. The third baseman, first baseman, they're going to go to the first base bag almost every time. If you give it back to the pitcher, they're a little bit more greedy. They have to deal with the hitters, and it's a difficult spot there. Lopez did his job in the first game, unable to do it here to start game number 2.
First pitch is a curveball on the outside corner, 0-1 to the Beacon starter, Dan Mantoni. Here comes the delivery out of the stretch, a fastball on the outside corner from Orlando Gonzalez, and it's 0-2 quickly to the Beacon's leading hitter.
Mantoni, not a guy who struggles to bat with 2 strikes. He did strike out back in game number 1, but had a couple of hits with 2 strikes.
From the stretch, the 0-2 pitch, runner goes outside, throw down's a gun in time, and the Beacons are running themselves out of an inning here in the first. An unsuccessful sacrifice from Lopez, and then a caught stealing as gunned down by Tim Budd is Josh Lopez. 2 down in the first inning.
And that's a difficult spot because, yes, putting a runner in scoring position is great, but you're taking the bat out of Dan Mantoni's hands. And now, if Mantoni's able to come away with a hit, maybe an extra base hit, you don't necessarily get a run across. So you like the enthusiasm there, and the Beacons do feel like they can run against Gonzalez, but much more feasible situation at 1-2.
I believe it's 2-2, yeah, and that one's fouled back. The pitch that Lopez was caught stealing on was outside. 2-2 with 2 outs, so deuces are wild for the Beacons starting pitcher, Dan Mantoni. Nobody on base now as Gonzalez out of the windup delivers a high fastball and Mantoni goes chasing. So no chance on that one for the team's leading hitter. We are through 1 inning of play from Campanelli Stadium in Brockton, Massachusetts. No score on the Beacons Broadcasting Network. Four, 5, 6 for the Warriors to face Dan Mantoni here in the top half of the second inning. For Seth Orensky, I am John Skudris on the Beacons Broadcasting Network. In the first, Mantoni went 1-2-3 against the likes of Zajac, Adams, and Scully. A couple of strikeouts looking to go along with a fly out to center field. He'll be facing off against Corey Keene, Kyle Hart, and Pat Saras here in the second inning of play. Beacons had a chance for a run in the first inning after a leadoff walk. However, they were unable to put anything across. Corey Keene is the batter. Number 3 in maroon, playing first base this afternoon. On the season, Keene a solid .290. 2 home runs, 7 runs batted in. He led off game 1. Had himself an extra base hit. Batting cleanup here in Game 2 against the Beacons right-hander. First pitch, a fastball well outside with no one on. Anthony Searles can let that one go by him. Perhaps a bit of a cross-up there. I think they were trying to go inside corner, and Mantoni just lost his grip on it. Regardless, it's 1 ball and no strikes to Corey Keene. Mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast, a speedy outfield for UMass Boston. As the 1-0 pitch is skied into right center field. And for Sanchez, the right fielder, have to utilize some of that speed as he makes the grab in his tracks on the track in right field in front of the Franklin Sports sign here at Campanelli Stadium. That's a fly out to right field for Keene and 1 down here in the second inning. It'll bring up Kyle Hart, who's playing right field today. Kyle hitting .288. 3 home runs, tied for the team lead, 9 runs batted in. Mantoni is ready. The first pitch to the right fielder is a bit low, 1 ball and no strikes. In Game 1, Kyle Hart went 1 for 5. A 5th inning double, his only hit, and his only time on base. Here's the 1-0 pitch, that one on the outside corner with a fastball. 1 ball and 1 strike to ECSU's 5-hole hitter. As Hart is ready, and here comes Mantoni's delivery. That one served into shallow right center field. It's a base hit, just sticking the bat head out on the outside corner fastball and lifting it over the head of the second baseman Lopez into right field. And that is a base runner, the first of the game, and the first hit of the game for Kyle Hart and these ECSU Warriors. So with a man at first base and 1 out, Pat Saris will come on in. The left-handed hitter, the first that the Beacons right-hander Mantoni will face. He steps in. Saris on the season hitting just .182. Runner leads from first. He tries to get the bunt down. It's a dandy. Coming on in is Barker. He'll have to hurry just in time to get Saris at first. He can't believe it as he has his arms towards the heavens as he runs back towards the dugout. Regardless, it is a big out for the Beacons and a solid sacrifice for the center fielder, Pat Saris. Advancing over to second is Kyle Hart on the sacrifice. 5-3 the put out. I smell pizza up here, if I'm not mistaken. Meanwhile, UMass Boston, with a man at second base, will see Mantoni. There is 2 outs here in the second inning. The hitter is Joe Perez, the left fielder. Here's the pitch. That one is low. 1 ball and no strikes to Perez. On the season, he's hitting .250. This is his 19th game. He's got 7 runs batted in. And an opportunity now for Mantoni to get out of this one unscathed. 1-0 pitch. Right there with a 2-seam fastball. 1 ball and 1 strike to Perez, with the runner at second being Kyle Hart. Mantoni has the sign. Right-hander out of the set. Takes a peek at Hart and will deliver. That one is lifted into right field, out of play, up the first base line. That one likely is going to exit the stadium. 1 ball and 2 strikes with 2 outs now to the Seminole hitter, Joe Perez. Mantoni looking for his sign from Searles. In Game 1, Perez had a double and a walk. He scored a run and stole a base. Here's the 1-2 pitch. Curveball, called. Strike 3, struck him out. Beautiful off-speed pitch for Dan Mantoni. So after he allows the 1-out single to Kyle Hart, a sacrifice bunt and a backwards K of Joe Perez gets Mantoni out of the inning. We are through 1.5 from Campanelli Stadium. No score on the Beacons Broadcasting Network. Orlando Gonzalez warms up for his second inning of work as the starter for the ECSU Warriors. No score as we head to the bottom of the second inning. UMass Boston went down 1-2-3 in the first. They did reach base on an error. That was Delvis Baez. However, he was gunned down on an unsuccessful sacrifice. It'll be Luke Nagel, Trevor Bouvier, and Ezekiel Sanchez to get things going. In Game 1, it was a heck of a performance for the Beacons offense, including the duo of Nagel and Bouvier. Nagel had a hit, reached base twice, an RBI, actually a couple of RBIs as well. And a home run in the third inning of Game 1 by Bouvier got the Beacons their first lead en route to a 7-5 victory against these Warriors. So it'll be a lefty-lefty matchup, a pair of southpaws dueling here to begin the bottom of the second inning as Nagel steps in. Community College transfer awaits the first pitch from Gonzalez. Big hack at the first pitch. A fastball fouled back into the screen. It's 0-1. We mentioned the pitching matchup before the game. So far living up to expectations. Just one hit allowed between these two pitchers. As this one's launched into right center field. Long run coming in. Not going to get there. The first hit of the game for the Beacons comes off the bat of Luke Nagel. And the Beacons have action to begin the second inning for Bouvier, who steps up, and another left-handed hitter against the left-hander Gonzalez. So Pat Saras came in, thought he might have been able to have an opportunity to get that, but wisely decided not to risk a dive and letting the ball go by him. So a leadoff single for Luke Nagel, and the Beacons are in business as Bouvier steps up to the dish. From the stretch, the fastball off the outside corner from Gonzalez. Opponents hitting just .217 against this southpaw. Orlando, a native of Montville, Connecticut. Here's the 1-0 pitch. That one is swung on and missed. 1 ball and 1 strike to Bouvier, number 22 in white. He had a home run off the fair pole in left field, Oppo Boppo, in Game 1. Lefty from the stretch. High leg kick delivery. Curveball right there. A doozy of a pitch by Gonzalez, especially against the lefty. And now ahead of the count is the starting pitcher for Eastern Connecticut. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Gets the sign, the 1-2 pitch, fastball cut on and missed by Bouvier, and that is just toying with a hitter like every pitcher wants to. He got him off his comfort level with that curveball, the knee buckler, to get it to 1-2. Came back with a heater on the outside corner, and it's strikeout number 2 for Gonzalez here through the first 5 batters. And with 1 down, it'll bring up the speedy right fielder, Ezekiel Sanchez. The first delivery to the Beacons corner outfielders on the outside corner with a fastball, 0-1. Nagel is at first. He led off the frame with a single into right center field. Sanchez, open stance from the right-handed batter's box. Gonzalez 0-1 pitch. That one is low. 1 ball and 1 strike as it's blocked by Bud. Thought about a snap throw to first, but Nagel back in time. Also not known for his speed. Gonzalez has worked mostly out of the stretch through the first inning and a third. Here is the 0-1 pitch, swung on and missed. 1-1 pitch was swung on and missed. It's 1-2 to Sanchez as the Beacons right fielder's behind in the count. On the season, Ezekiel hitting .310, 1 extra base hit, 2 runs batted in. From the stretch, the 1-2 pitch from Gonzalez, that's skied into foul territory down the right field line. It might trickle fair, and it did, but coming in to make a smart play, it's getting back is Nagel, the right fielder making the play there. A very good effort by Kyle Hart. So Hart makes the squeeze. It's a fly out to right. Sanchez is retired, and 2 down for Anthony Searles. Searles came in the 7th inning last game. Caught the final few frames with the bullpen in relief. He starts here in Game 2, hitting .235 for the season with 5 runs batted in. First pitch from Gonzalez is on the outside corner with a fastball, strike 1. Nagel at first base, he led off with a single. Since then, Bouvier struck out and Sanchez flew out to shallow right field. Here's the 0-1 pitch. Searles swings and lines this one up the first base line. First base coach had to do a little skip to my Lou there to avoid getting hit with that one. It's 0-2 to the Beacons backstop. Gonzalez back on the rubber. He gets his sign from Bud. Ignores the runner at first completely with 2 outs, and now will come home, and that one's high for ball 1. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Anthony Searles. Number 2 in the scorebook, and number 2 in the positional numbers as well, the backstop for today's game. Gonzalez is ready. 1-2 with 2 outs. And that one is lined foul, out of play and out of Campanelli Stadium. A sparse crowd here this afternoon, but both for the Beacons and the Warriors, the loyal have come to Brockton to see this game. Beautiful weather. As a 1-2 pitch, sees the runner go from first. That one is low, no throw. So a stolen base for the first baseman, Luke Nagel, as the Beacons have a man in scoring position now. Nagel on the season had just 1 coming in, so he's 2 for 2 now in stolen bases. And as deuces remain wild, 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. That one is low and in the dirt, gets away from Bud, and Nagel can move up to third. So now the Beacons with an opportunity, perhaps with an infield single or an error, to score the first run of the game. Still no score in the bottom of the 2nd inning. So Gonzalez getting a little wild here. He had Searles ahead 1-2. It's trickled to 3-2, and an opportunity for Anthony to drive in a run with a base hit. From the stretch, Gonzalez, the 3-2 pitch. That one in the dirt, ball 4. And so the Beacons putting together a 2-out rally here with Searles at first. Runners are at the corners. And that'll bring up Coley Barker, the third baseman today. Coley playing the hot corner because Mantoni is the starting pitcher. On the season, Barker hitting .238. He's got 1 extra base hit, 2 runs batted in. Looking to increase that number as Gonzalez is ready out of the stretch. The first pitch to Barker, swung on and missed at a high fastball, 0-1. Barker, a freshman, standing at 5'10", 175 from Pembroke, Massachusetts. Right-handed hitter against the left-hander Gonzalez. From the stretch, the peak to first. There goes the runner. 0-1 pitch and a swing and a foul tip back off the backstop. Barker behind in the count, 0-2. Might have been a hit and run. Good idea with the bottom of the order. Sal Frascino waits on deck. Frascino led off in game 1, but against the southpaw Gonzalez, he'll be batting 9th. Gonzalez is ready, and Orlando will instead look to first base, as after seeing Anthony Searles take off on the last pitch, he wants to keep the Beacons backstop close. There are 2 down, and an 0-2 count here to the Beacons' third baseman, Coley Barker. Runners at the corners. Runners are off at anything with 2 outs. Here's the 0-2 outside. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Missing with a fastball was Gonzalez. He's worked primarily fastball changeup here through the first inning and 2/3. Haven't seen much of the hook. We saw a little of it in the first inning. Almost non-existent here in the second. From the stretch, the 1-2 pitch. Fastball lifted into left center field. That's trouble. That might split the gap, but ranging over to his left to make a fine play is the left fielder Joe Perez, and mercifully gets Gonzalez out of the inning unscathed. So the Beacons do get a base runner on 1 hit. 2 men left on base. We head to the top of the 3rd inning from Campanelli Stadium in Brockton, Massachusetts. Still no score between the Beacons and the Warriors. Top half of the 3rd inning here from Campanelli Stadium. I am John Scudris. Dan Mantoni continues to deal here in the 3rd inning. He's given up 1 hit in the first 2 frames. And UMass Boston will see their starter take on Mike Funera, the shortstop for the visiting Warriors, to begin the 3rd frame as Seth Orensky rejoins me in the broadcast booth. And Seth, so far through 2 innings, exactly like we expected, a pitcher's duel.
Yep, you got 2 hits. 1 for each team. Both pitchers pitching quickly, and you have to take advantage of those small and few opportunities you're going to get. The Beacons leaving 2 on in that bottom of the second after Gonzalez got a little bit wild. The good news for both teams, their pitchers are working fast. They're working efficiently, and that's what you want to see. Game 2, some of these guys didn't play in game number 1. A fast-moving game keeps the players engaged, and it keeps those bullpen arms a little bit more focused as well, as we saw the importance of the bullpen in game number 1. The Beacons had a great outing. The Warriors had a pretty good outing. That was the difference.
It's 2-2 here to Funara to begin the inning as he chops one over to second base. Play made there, and the throw over to get the shortstop, Funara. Good play by Lopez, although a Sunday hop if I've ever seen one. 1 down here in the 3rd inning. Beacons face Tim Budd. He's the 9-hole hitter. He had a solid performance in game 1, did Budd, as the backstop for these visiting Warriors put together a 1-for-4 day, but it included 2 runs batted in, a triple, reaching on an error, and a walk.
Well, you talk about catchers at this level. Division III, you're not necessarily going to get everything you want out of a player at Division III. Player might not be a great base runner. They might not have the same kind of power you're hoping out of a Division I player. But Tim Budd is exactly what you wanted out of a Division III catcher. He's a solid backstop. He calls a good game. He's good defensively, and he can hit a little bit.
Gives that one a ride to right field. Sanchez using every bit of that excellent speed to come on over towards the line and make the play. So 2 quick outs here on a ground out and a fly out for Mantoni as he continues to work efficiently and turns the lineup over. It'll be the left-hander Jeffrey Zajac coming on in. He struck out looking to begin the ball game earlier on this afternoon.
And it'll be interesting the second time around for both teams what kind of adjustments the teams make. Normally it's the third time around, but in college sometimes you don't see a pitcher get through 5, maybe 6 innings. So what can Eastern do? What can UMass Boston do to get some more base runners and potentially strike first?
First pitch was low from Mantoni, 1-0. And the 1-0 pitch is cut on and missed by Zajac. Second baseman for these visiting Warriors. Zajac this season is off to a slow start, hitting just 189, trying to turn things around for a team that really in general has been underperforming all season long. That one on the outside corner, Jeffrey didn't agree. Regardless, it's 1-2, and a chance for a quick inning for Dan Mantoni. 1-2 pitch is high, check swing. 2 balls and 2 strikes with 2 outs in the top of the third inning.
Well, John, one of the difficult part about graduating those 5 position players who were all starters, 3 of those players were the top on the team in batting average, RBIs, home runs, all those stats. You lose a ton of production, and some of these younger guys are having to step in. This is the 10th start for Jeffrey Zajac. He's still getting his sea legs under him a little bit as a collegiate baseball player.
The 3-2 delivery, that one is high for ball 4, so Zajac battles back, works a walk. He's struck out now and walked in his 2 at-bats, so a 2-out base runner, and now that's trouble for the Beacons, even with Mantoni on the mound, because Chad Adams and Andrew Scully, the team's 2 leading hitters, are due up.
And I like the move to move up Adams and Scully, get them some extra at-bats here in game number 2, knowing that you might not necessarily get through your lineup as many times. Get your top hitters up as many times as possible.
From the stretch now, Mantoni delivers. He has that sidestep that limits base runners. However, he missed the plate on that one low. 1 ball and no strike to Chad Adams, the third baseman who struck out looking his first time up. That's a good point, Seth. You don't see managers do it very often. They like to stick with their lineups, what they're familiar with, as that's a check swing right back to the mound. Easy play for Mantoni, and sometimes it's a little more difficult than when you're at the hot corner to fire that one across the diamond. Regardless, he gets the job done. Plays made by Nagel, and we are through 2.5 innings here in Game 2 of the doubleheader between the Warriors and the Beacons. No score on the Beacons Broadcasting Network. Orlando Gonzalez back on the mound, working into his third inning as the starter. Came into this game very highly heralded, a D2 transfer, coming in with a record of 1-0 with a 2.28 ERA, and so far he has not disappointed. For the Beacons, it's going to be Sal Frascino to lead things off. Sal led off the lineup in game one, bringing up the rear here, and he tries to drag bunt his way on, and he does so successfully as tumbling down like a tree in the forest is the first baseman, and a successful drag bunt single for Sal Frascino. Speed kills sometimes, and it can start rallies. Let's hope it does.
Well, John, the first time he put down the drag bunt, he put it in between the pitcher and the second baseman, forcing both of those players to converge. Neither player could get there in time. This time it was a little bit more in that Bermuda Triangle. The first baseman elected to go there. Even if he had fielded it cleanly, I'm not sure if he would have been able to get there. A nice job, though, by the second baseman, Jeffrey Zajac, to cover the bag. There was a little bit more communication, but Frascino just too speedy. Only has 2 hits on the day. They haven't gone very far, but he's put his team in a positive situation.
Baez looking to bunt him over, takes high and away for ball 1 on the curveball. Frascino just tripped over the first base bag. Let's hope he's a little more graceful as he tries to get to second momentarily. Frascino, yeah, you mentioned a couple infield singles on bunts today. And the Warriors have a second baseman playing first today, so a player who you'd think would be a little more adept to fielding, as this one is cut on and missed now by Baez, as he's not bunting. 1 ball and 1 strike to the Beacons left fielder.
Well, Frascino's picked on Keene both of those times, and this is a perfect spot. Remember, the last time that Frascino reached on that bunt single, it was part of that 2-run 8th inning, so trying to put some base runners on ahead of Mantoni and Nagel.
Pickoff move to first as Baez showed bunt early. Pinching in from third base was Adams. It's 1-1 to Delvis Baez. Did not play in game 1. Gonzalez is ready, takes a peek over, will deliver. Baez now takes low. 2 balls and 1 strike. So the Beacons playing some head games here with young Orlando Gonzalez. Not sure whether they're going to bunt or not.
Well, Frascino 6 for 6 on the base pass, second on the Beacons in total stolen bases. They felt like they could steal on him if they could get base runners on, so maybe you don't give up the out with Frascino maybe swiping the bag.
There he goes. Cut on and miss. Throw down by Bud is not in time. Great slide to the outside of the bag from Sal Frascino. And another stolen base, perfect on the year for the Beacons' young outfielder, and he continues to torment opposing batteries when he reaches base. So a man in scoring position with nobody out, and the top of the order ready to wreak some havoc against the lefty.
And Bud, it was a great throw down, but it was to the left side of the bag. If that's on the right side of the bag, he gets Frascino by about half a step.
2-2 pitch. This one skied into left field. It's playable. Fighting the sun to left fielder and making the play. Faking the tag is Frascino as the throw came in from Perez. And there's one down. Not a good out there with nobody out and a man at second. You drag that to second or first base, you easily have a runner at third with less than 2 outs.
But Gonzalez fully aware of that, not giving Baez anything that he could really put on the ground there. So, you know what? It's a little bit of a battle. The Beacons happy to have the runner over at second base. They were willing to give up the bunt originally, and now it's a big spot here for Josh Lopez. We've seen him do some good things. We've seen him do some struggle a little bit at the plate. A big spot for the freshman.
First pitch is inside, almost got him on the front elbow. It's ball 1. Lopez in his first at-bat. Unsuccessful sacrifice bunt resulted in a force out at second of Baez. He was then stranded at first base. 1-0 pitch is high. Actually, that one is a strike called, and the throw from Bud goes into center field. So that'll be an error on the backstop, Bud. And the Beacons are in business with just 1 out, so now Baez is off the hook as the runner advances over to third base. And UMass Boston is 90 feet away from taking their first lead of this game.
Well, John, I was about to say you don't want to run yourself into an out with Mantoni up next. Remember, Lopez was actually caught stealing in the first, leaving there no runners on with 2 outs for Dan Mantoni. Now the infield comes in, and it's a chance for Lopez, if he hits it hard, to give the Beacons their first run.
Infield is in. They're already trying to protect in a 0-0 game in the bottom half of the third inning. That's how you know you got some good starting pitching on the mound.
It's the third time we've seen Eastern come in, and all of them in situations where you maybe wonder, but Eastern, they're not that confident in their offense to score, not just against Mantoni, but period.
The 1-2 pitch is coming to Lopez. Ground ball, shortstop, bobbled by the shortstop. Everybody's safe, and the Beacons are on the board. Sal Frascino comes in to score. Josh Lopez reaches first, and the UMass Boston Beacons are in business out in front 1-0.
So it's an RBI, but an error nonetheless. That's another error for this middle infield for Eastern Connecticut State. They've tried two different combinations. That time it was Mike Funaro. It's a somewhat difficult hop, but you're brought in for a reason. You set yourself, if he's there in time, Frashino's fast, but he still should have been able to get that ball and either get the out at first, if he didn't think he could go home, or try to go home and get the lead runner.
So it'll bring up Mantoni, the team's leading hitter, and as Gonzalez continues to deal, that one inside corner for strike one. UMass Boston in Game 1 benefited from a cavalcade of errors by the infield of this Eastern Connecticut team, and it continues. Already 3 errors here in Game 2 as this one skied out of play. Nothing in 2 now to Dan Mantoni with 1 out and a man at first base.
Well, and it's adding up. You have the error on the catcher Dodd that allows the runner to move over to third. You're not in if the runner's still at second base. It's an easy play. There's 2 now and a runner on either second or third. So this is a chance going from having maybe no runs come in. So with Mantoni up to the plate, you could be seeing a 2, 3, maybe even 4-run inning. And these are the errors that are the difference between a team 5 games over 500 versus a team that's 4 games under right now in Eastern Connecticut.
Mantoni goes out and swats that one up the first base line out of play as it careens off of a seat out there. It remains 0-2 to the Beacon starting pitcher. Dan came into this afternoon's action hitting .425. From the stretch, Lopez off of first. Here's the pitch. That one served into right field. Hart is in his tracks to make the play in medium deep right, as there's the second out of the inning. Mantoni retired for the second time in this game, and it'll bring up Luke Nagel with 2 outs and a man on first.
John, we haven't talked about it yet, but it is such a rarity in college baseball to see a pitcher hit for themselves. Now, normally a position player, but you normally want to just have them focus on their pitching. Mantoni, one of the few. You see it in college softball all the time. Sometimes the pitchers are the best hitters because they're the best players on the team. But to see Mantoni be able to do that and pitch as well as he has this season is a testament to how good he is.
Perez goes for second, and he'll get there easily. Could have moonwalked his way the 90 feet to the second base bag. Instead, he is safe sliding head first. And the Beacons have a man in scoring position with 2 outs for Luke Nagel, who singled and was stranded at third base his first time up.
Yeah, well, Lopez was caught in the first inning, but aggressive nonetheless, and he's in there. So now he's in scoring position for Luke Nagel.
From the stretch, the first pitch to Nagel's a curveball, and Nagel buckled at the knees there, but it was almost right over the heart of the plate, a little high for ball 1.
And with a 2-0 count, you expect Nagel to be maybe sitting on the pitch he's looking for to try to drive it.
Excuse me, you're right, Seth. 2-0. Lopez off second. That one is on the outside corner for strike 1. 2 balls and 1 strike with 2 outs here in the third inning. In the top of the fourth, it'll be the heart of the order. Scully, Keene, and Hart for the Warriors against Dan Mantoni, who now has a chance to regroup in the dugout. Here's the 2-1. Right there with a curveball. Nice pitch, lefty on lefty, and it's evened up at 2-2 with 2 outs.
Nagel's one of those guys who sits dead red, and that definitely made him think a little bit more.
Beacons have taken a 1-0 lead on an error by the shortstop, as this one is off the outside corner for ball 1. Run would have come around to score anyway, as Funera was looking to fire to first on that one, on the ground ball by Lopez. That's why he gets the RBI, and then advances to first base on the error. It's 3-2 now. With 2 down, here to Nagel. The delivery and another curveball. Beautiful pitch. Gets the left-handed hitter out in front and retires the side with a strikeout. Gonzalez has struck out 3, but he leads, or rather he trails after 3 innings. It's 1-0 Beacons on the Beacons Broadcasting Network.
Top of the fourth inning here. UMass Boston with their first lead of game number 2. And it'll be the heart of this order. 3, 4, 5 for Eastern Connecticut State. Dan Mantoni, 37 pitches through 3 innings. Orlando Gonzalez already up to 59. As we're here in the bottom of the fourth, it'll be Andrew Scully, Corey Keene, and Kyle Hart. Mantoni quickly ahead 0-1 as that one bounces up there 1-1. Scully flew out to center field in his first at-bat. Came in leading the team in RBI and batting average. Scully, the big right-handed hitter, hitting .377 coming into the day. Hasn't done too much damage to UMass Boston as the Beacons trying to come up with a rare feat. Sweeping Eastern Connecticut State, just 6-38 all time. They do have a lot of wins recently. Back in 2010, the Beacons won the LEC tournament at Eastern Connecticut State, and their only ever Little East Conference tournament championship. Then, the week later, they won the New England Regional Crown in the NCAA tournament at Eastern Connecticut State. So some fond memories for head coach Brendan Eigerbrot and some of his assistant coaches who were on that team. 2-2 pitch, a little bit off the corner, and the count runs full here. Matt LeBranch in his second season for Eastern Connecticut State, trying to recreate last year in which the Warriors swept Southern Maine on the final day of the regular season to earn hosting rights and then won the Little East Conference tournament crown on their home field. Ball hit over to Bouvier, struggles with it to throw across, and it's not in time. That'll go for an E6. Bouvier nearly had enough time even after the bobble, but Scully, running hard the entire way, beats it out. And it's a leadoff base runner for Eastern Connecticut State.
Oh, man, Seth Orensky, that's the last thing you need to begin an inning. An error by a middle infielder when Dan Mantoni's been cruising all day long. And now you got the cleanup hitter, Corey Keene, coming up. And with Scully at first base, an opportunity for the Warriors to do some damage. And for Dan Mantoni, as an ace pitcher, what you got to do, pick up your middle infielder. Pick up the guy that made that mistake. And now perhaps get that double play ball so Bouvier can redeem himself.
Well, John Keene was the leadoff hitter in game number 1. The cleanup hitter here in game number 2. That shows some versatility for Keene, who's gone between second and first base between the two games. But this is maybe not the most difficult of situations in that Adams and Scully are really your prototypical cleanup hitters. Keene, more of a batting average guy, doesn't have quite as much pop as Mantoni's first offering to him. Fastball just a little bit off the corner, 1-0.
He does have 2 home runs, 8 extra base hits this year. At the same time, though, you're right. He's more of an on-base percentage guy, reaching at a 35% clip.
Throw over just a little bit late as Nagel applies the tag. This Beacon double play combo has worked a lot as of late, as the Beacons have had a rotating cast of characters at second base this season. Trevor Bouvier has played every single game at shortstop. Ball hit over to Coley Barker. Double play ball. The throw across to Lopez. The throw over to first, and it's in time. 5-4-3 as the first base coach is arguing Nagel's foot did not stay on the bag. He had to reach away from the bag, and the umpire saying that he had just enough of it. The first base coach is irate. But the Beacons get the 2 outs, and that's what you're looking for. The double play ball and a nice turn from Barker, who's normally a second baseman.
Absolutely. Mantoni looks over at his replacement at the hot corner, says, nice job, man. Coley Barker. If you ask me, there's nothing prettier than a successful turn on a 5-4-3 double play, especially when you got that stretch at first base from Luke Nagel. And heck, that is a big double play.
As that ball is softly chopped off for strike number 1, and it's a momentum shift right there as Kyle Hart comes up to the plate. It's interesting. Normally it's Luke Nagel playing the hot corner. Instead, he's over there at first making the stretch. Daniel Benito, our game number 1 starter for UMass Boston, probably could have made that play as that ball's hit softly up, and now what a difference that is as Hart gets the 2-out single with no one on rather than potentially a runner on first or even 2 runners on, depending on what could have happened there. But Mantoni not quite out of this 4th inning yet as Pat Soroyas steps up, our game 2 center fielder, grounded out to the third baseman for the 2nd out of the 2nd inning as the lefty steps in to face Mantoni.
Yeah, and you talk about the error by Bouvier to begin the inning, and that's one teammate picking up the other with Coley Barker, a guy who doesn't play all the time, showing why he should be the replacement for Mantoni.
Fastball in there for strike one. Barker has been one of those players who's played at second base. He was a Little East Conference Rookie of the Week after having a big week down in Florida while playing second base. And the Beacons really like their bench depth this season. They have a lot of different options in the outfield, a couple different options in the middle infield, and on the corners, and they even run 2 or 3 deep at the catcher position. As it's a 1-1 count here to Pat Soroyas. Over at first base, it's Kyle Hart. He's singled with 2 down. Dan Mantoni trying to get the Beacons bats right back out there after they scored in the bottom half of the third inning to take this 1-0 lead. UMass Boston took the first game by a 7-5 score. It was a Mantoni 2-run, 2-out double in the bottom of the 8th inning that gave the Beacons the 7-5 lead after UMass Boston had trailed 5-4 earlier on in the game. 2-1 pitch, foul back our way a little bit to the left, and the count runs to 2-2.
If Soroyas is able to reach, Joe Perez is on deck. He struck out looking his first time up. One of 3 strikeouts for Mantoni, the Beacon starter today. And for Dan, just 1 walk to his detriment this afternoon.
2-2 pitch, runner takes off. It doesn't matter. Struck him out swinging. That's the 4th strikeout of the day for Dan Mantoni. We head to the bottom half of the 4th. The Beacons will look to add to their lead. It's 5-6-7 coming up for UMass Boston. Bottom half of the 4th inning, it'll be the Beacon shortstop, Trevor Bouvier, leading it off. Bouvier had a big solo shot to spark a 3-run inning for the Beacons in game number 1, which got them started. They took a 4-2 lead. He'll see if he can do something here. Hits that ball hard out to right center field. This is going to be trouble. It's going to be extra bases for Bouvier here as the ball being played by the center fielder, and they'll keep Bouvier to 2 bases. A nice job by Pat Soroyas out there, but first pitch swinging, and he's got his 2nd extra base hit of the day.
Yeah, and in Bouvier's first at-bat, you saw him kind of sit back, rest on his laurels, and it ended up really backfiring as he struck out swinging after falling behind in the count. And against a left-handed pitcher, when you're a lefty in the batter's box, and especially a guy with Gonzalez's secondary stuff, the last thing you want to do is fall behind in the count. So Bouvier learned from his mistake, jumped on the first pitch, and the Beacons have a man in scoring position.
Ezekiel Sanchez making his 3rd plate appearance of the day. He came on and pinch hit in game number 1, possibly bunting here as he takes a breaking ball in the inside half for strike 1. Sanchez flew out to right field, down the right field line in his first at-bat back in the 2nd inning. And with no outs here, the Beacons might play for that single run, trying to double their lead. As the 0-1 taken once again, this time low for ball 1.
1-1 pitch coming up here to Sanchez, and he's a guy without much pop but a lot of speed. Be interesting to see if the Beacons thought about just laying one down up the first baseline here, try to get some insurance.
Bouvier on second base after the leadoff double. 1-1 pitch, swung on, chopped back to the stop, and it's 1-2. Anthony Searles will run after that one. He's due up next, and Coley Barker is in the hole for the Beacons as they look to double up their lead. They scored a single run in the 3rd inning as it was Sal Fruscino singling on a bunt, stealing 2nd, reaching 3rd on a throwing error by the catcher as that ball's hit through the left side, and Bouvier is going to hold up at 3rd base as Bobby Barrett doesn't want any of that. Nice job to charge by Joe Perez, but the Beacons in business. Runners on the corners, and no outs here in the fourth as Orlando Gonzalez has been so good. Already has a shutout in conference play. Struggling a little bit here in the middle innings.
Yeah, I mean, and you're seeing the Beacons do it every which way. Bouvier with a hammered shot in the right center field gap. Then you see Sanchez with a bit of a tweener there through the hole between short and third base. Any way you can get it, you'll take it. Beacons in real business now with runners at the corners. Even though the bottom of the order is up, Anthony Searles is a guy who makes good contact, a good veteran presence, and a guy who knows that a sacrifice fly here gets you that second run that you desperately need.
Searles walked in his only plate appearance against Gonzalez. Puts down the bunt. It wasn't a true suicide squeeze. And then the ball thrown away by Gonzalez. Sanchez is being waved around third. He's going to come in all the way from first base. Searles is going to end up at third base. And it's a terrible mistake there by Gonzalez, who was taken off guard by the safety squeeze there from Anthony Searles, and the Beacons in real business now, leading 3-0. Another error, this time on the pitcher, and Eastern is shooting themselves in the foot.
My goodness, it's the Bad News Bears out there. Real dumpster fire in the field all day for Eastern Connecticut State. After they committed 4 errors in Game 1, they've already committed 4 in 3+ innings this afternoon in Game 2. And the Beacons now, as they send Coley Barker up to the plate, are in business for yet another opportunity at a run, already leading 3-0.
And, of course, the infield coming in. We saw that back in the second inning when the Beacons were still tied 0-0, as that's going to go down as a sacrifice and a 2-base error on the pitcher, as he threw the ball in between the first baseman and second baseman, who were both over there towards the first base bag covering, and Gonzalez just a very, very poor mistake there as he threw it down the right field line. So much foul territory. Searles, decent speed for a catcher, able to leg it all the way over. Sanchez was easily coming home on that one. And with no outs, the Beacons just need to find a way to get this ball to the outfield with one of their next 2 outs. As that ball bounces up there, Barker doing a nice job to take all the way 2-1. Coley, in his only plate appearance on the day, flew out to left field. He started a beautiful 5-4-3 double play in the top half of this inning as the Beacons 1 run in the third, 2 more here in the fourth, and they're in business with a runner on third in the form of Anthony Searles. Gonzalez is 2-1 offering. That one's fouled off down the right side, and it will sit up there in one of the boxes as it took a nice deflection. 2-2 here, as it looks like there's another game coming up after ours. One of the high school games is Brockton. The Brockton High School Boxers will be playing at who knows what time. This game started a little bit late, as do most doubleheaders. 2-2 pitch. That one swung on and missed. So Gonzalez gets the first one that he needs, but he'll have to retire Sal Fruscino to keep this score at 3-0. That's already a pretty big lead when you have Dan Mantoni pitching the way he is.
Yeah, it is. I think the Beacons know what they're doing here right now. They need to get this 4th run in. You got the 4th run in, you have to feel pretty confident in your ability to hold on to a 4-run lead. And going back to that error, that's clearly a young pitcher panicking. Only a sophomore, despite all the talent. Definitely panicked did Gonzalez, and that resulted in 2 runs and perhaps 3 if the Beacons can get it done.
Sal Fruscino reached on a bunt single, pushed it down the first base line, and the first baseman wasn't able to make the play. He has 2 hits on the day, both coming by way of the bunt, as he will hit that one out to left field. This one is pretty shallow. Searles tagging up, and Searles is going to take off. The throw coming in from Perez. It's in time, but the catcher can't make the play, and the Beacons lead 4-0. A short bounce there, as Tim Budd has played very well today, but that one was a difficult one. Great throw from Perez, and the Beacons lead 4-0.
Oh, it was a tremendous throw. Unfortunately, you want to give the catcher just a little bit more range there. Either you don't want to hop it at all, or you want to give him that one hop 2 or 3 feet in front of him, allow him the opportunity to see the ball and make the tag. Unfortunately, that was right in between where you want that to be. Unfortunately for the Beacons, that error on Gonzalez continues to bring fruition to their line score as they lead 5-0.
Chance for Delvis Baez, who's 0 for 2. Reached on an error in the first inning, and then flew out down the left field line back in the third. Already his 3rd trip up to the plate, and we're only in the bottom of the 4th inning. The Beacons have struck for 4 runs here in this
Is it 5-0 or 4-0?
It's 4-0.
I think it's 4-0. Yeah.
It's 3 runs in this bottom of the 4th inning as that ball hops by. The scoreboard confusing us a little bit. Thankfully, Alexandra Carlos, our producer, has been spot on all day long. We joke around with her, the UMass Boston women's hockey player, but
captain.
As it's a 1-1 offering to Delvis Baez, and he takes that one on the outside corner, 1-2. It's so difficult when you make a mental mistake and hurt yourself to settle down, but Gonzalez has done a nice job. Unfortunate for him that ball bounced just a little bit ahead of Bud. As the throw was in time, it would have gotten him out with only allowing 2 runs in the inning. All these runs, so precious in a game between these two aces. 4-0 Beacons lead, 2 outs. Full count here to Delvis Baez. He will foul that one off down the left field line. And for Baez, it doesn't matter to him if it's a hit or a walk. He has a team-high 16 walks, just 13 hits and 35 at-bats. It doesn't matter to him, and he's done such a good job. An on-base percentage over .530. He will hit that one out towards center field. Playable for Soroyas, and he'll make the play in left center field, but not before the Beacons score 3 runs in the inning on a pair of hits and a big error by Orlando Gonzalez. Top of the 5th inning, Eastern Connecticut State looking to get some runs back as they trail 4-0. It's the largest deficit for either team on the day. The Beacons took the first game 7-5, leading 4-0 here in the 5th. As Eastern Connecticut State will have 7, 8, 9 up. Joe Perez, who struck out looking back in the 2nd inning as the count's 1-1 to Perez. And he had a hell of a throw in to home plate. It was unfortunate that it took a short hop on Tim Budd, because otherwise he would have had Anthony Searles dead to rights as he fouls that one off, and it's 1-2.
Yeah, no, it was a great throw by Perez. He's done a good job in left field here in Game 2. He had a couple of nice ranging plays earlier on. Unfortunately for Eastern Connecticut, 8 errors in 13 innings. Not going to get it done.
Swung on and missed. Another strikeout for Dan Mantoni. That's number 5 on the game, as he is really pitching well here. Pitching quickly. His defense has to love that. Mike Funaro steps up to the plate. The shortstop grounded out to second base to lead off the 3rd.
I tell you, I just have to say, Seth, everything you've been saying about Dan Mantoni coming into the game, it's until you actually see a pitcher go on out there and perform. The guy hits the strike zones. He has great command of all of his pitches, and there's a reason why he's as successful as he's been all year.
Well, it's such a transformation. You talk about working hard in the offseason to help yourself. He went from a weekday starter, 4th or 5th starter on the Beacons behind Josh Comiskey, who's now the Beacons closer, as it's quickly 1-2 here to Funaro, to being the number 1 ace, and that's just putting in the work in the offseason. He's just a sophomore, which means he could get a lot better over his next 2 years. It's a scary thought. So that ball's hit over to the second baseman. Should be an easy play for Lopez. He'll throw it across and in time. Funaro's been retired twice, both times on ground outs to Lopez. Talked about Jamil Moquette and him becoming a Major League Baseball prospect. I don't want to get ahead of myself here for Dan Mantoni, but he's got a lot of the same tools. He's a 5-tool player. Moquette couldn't pitch. He was just a phenomenal hitter. If Mantoni continues to work as hard as he is, and he's a great student athlete, a player who consistently earns all-conference honors academically as an engineering student, he's got a bright future. As the first pitch, that one paints the corner for strike one there to Tim Budd, the catcher who's 0 for 1 in this one. Hit a fly ball down the right field line that Zeke Sanchez was able to track down, and that pitch just misses 1-1.
This might be a pinch hitter, Seth. Looks like Andrew Girard is actually coming on in here, the sophomore catcher from Simsbury, Connecticut, replacing Tim Budd.
Well, Budd did catch the first 13 innings today. As that pitch catches the corner, and it's 1-2 to Girard. Thank you for catching that. Girard on the season, 0 for 8, making his 7th appearance, 2 starts, and he swings and misses. Another strikeout for Dan Mantoni. We head to the bottom of the 5th. Mantoni and the Beacons are rolling, looking for the sweep here against the defending Little East Conference champs, Eastern Connecticut State University. Bottom of the 5th inning, and Girard will stay in to catch here. Tim Budd had a decent day. He did struggle a little bit with the errors. I think he finished with 3 today. Had a throwing error that really helped the Beacons out, scoring their first run of game number 2. As it'll be Orlando Gonzalez going through the heart of this Beacons order for the 3rd time. Josh Lopez, Dan Mantoni, Luke Nagel, 2, 3, 4. The Beacons scored 1 in the 3rd and 3 more in the 4th as that ball is fouled off. A lot of these runs have been error-aided. 4 errors here for Eastern Connecticut State in game number 2. They had 5 in game number 1. It's just not what we've come to expect from the Warriors, but very young team, and they're still trying to work out some of the kinks. As it's been difficult to play consistent baseball here in New England. They don't have a home field. The Beacons playing here in Brockton, Massachusetts for the 3rd straight year without a home field on campus as Lopez puts that bunt down foul, quickly behind in the count 0-2. UMass Boston, this sweep would be huge as they have to travel to Gorham, Maine on Tuesday for a 3:30 start. Sal Frashino would likely get the start in that one. He had a brilliant outing against Salem State the other day in which he gave up 2 runs over 5 innings, kept the Beacons close against the regionally ranked squad. He's been the team's 3rd starter thus far throughout the year, and a win against Southern Maine, especially at their place, would really put the Beacons on the map, as that's a strikeout swinging for Orlando Gonzalez. He gets the first batter of the inning. That's strikeout number 4 for Gonzalez, and he'll face Dan Mantoni. Mantoni had a very good game number 1, a double, a triple, 2 RBIs. 0 for 2 here in game number 2, but his pitching has done more than enough for the sophomore.
Yeah, it speaks for itself. 5 innings, 2 hits, no runs. He's really crafted his skill on the mound and at the dish, although he's 0 for 2 today.
These two pitchers came in the top 5 in the conference in opponent's batting average. Mantoni giving up just 2 hits. That'll help his 182 batting average. Other side, Gonzalez had opponents hitting just 217 against him. He's a little bit higher than that, but not too much, with 4 hits allowed through 4 1/3 innings, as that pitch is a little bit low. And the count runs to 3-0. Mantoni, we'll see if he gets the green light, as Mantoni would love to get on either way ahead of Luke Nagel, big-time lefty, who's at first base in game number 2. That pitch in there for a strike, 3-1. Pitcher versus pitcher. You so infrequently see that battle unless it's National League Baseball. 3-1. That one's hit hard over to the third baseman. Nice snag by Adams. The throw across in time, and there's 2 outs in the inning.
Yeah, nice play by Adams to his left. We saw him with an adept play in game 1 to his right. Shows his range here, moving across his body with the glove, and then a solid throw to get Mantoni, who's now 0 for 3, but I think that Brendan Eigerbrodt will take an 0 for 3 from Mantoni if he's throwing a shutout through 5 innings.
And he's had some very good games at the dish when pitching, which is why they consistently put him out there. He had a 3 for 4 game with a couple of RBI down in Florida, as Luke Nagel will step up to the dish. The Beacon's first baseman / designated hitter takes a strike there, although the catcher unable to make the catch. That's the newly inserted Andrew Gerard, sophomore out of Simsbury, Connecticut, in there after Tim Budd caught the first 13 innings of the day. He'll take a seat and hope that his team can make a comeback and earn the all-important split. 0-1 offering to Nagel. That one's fouled off. It's tough when you don't have a home field like Eastern did, and it happened so late in the season that you couldn't find a place like Campanelli Stadium to host you consistently. They played home games up in New Hampshire at Franklin Pierce. They played at Central Connecticut State. So even the fields that they call home aren't necessarily familiar, as Gonzalez will underhand that one over after frustrating Nagel in on the hands. And the Beacons go down 1-2-3 here in the 5th. We head to the 6th inning. UMass Boston leading 4-0 behind another strong performance by Dan Mantoni. Top of the 6th inning here in Brockton, Massachusetts, as we debate Dan Mantoni's leadership skills.
Come on, Seth. He's a leader. Just look at his pants.
His pitching skills, well, there's not many questions about that. He'll face the top of the order, Jeffrey Zajac, Chad Adams, and Andrew Scully, the sophomore third baseman, pitcher, co-captain. Doesn't matter what kind of description you're trying to give to him. He's been good today. 1 for 1. The game-winning 2-run, 2-out double in the bottom of the 8th to give the Beacons game number 1, 7-5. And he's trying to pitch the Beacons to a sweep here in game number 2. Quickly behind, though, 2-1 to Jeffrey Zajac. Struck out looking the first. Walked on a full count back in the 3rd inning. And the count runs to 2-2 as the Ball bounces off the upper concourse and nearly comes down and hits a poor fan on the head. Fans over on the left field side still getting a little bit of the sun that remains over the concourse as that ball's flared out to left field. That one's going to get down. Delvis Bias will range over to his left. Overruns the ball, but Zajac not going anywhere, and a strong throw in to Lopez as Zajac will camp out there at first base with the leadoff single.
A leadoff single for Zajac, the leadoff hitter for these Warriors, and that's exactly what they're looking for against Dan Mantoni, because it's the first time this game that they've gotten a leadoff hit and just the second time a leadoff base runner after a fourth-inning error on Bouvier.
Yeah, and back in the fourth inning, the Beacons were able to get the double play as that ball's popped up. It might be playable for Searles. Searles looking for it, and he's unable to make the play. A little bit of that shadows versus light, and that's a difficult one as they almost got an immediate out there on Chad Adams, the second-best hitter on this team. And now let's see if Eastern can make the Beacons pay, as Searles was battling with that one, and it just popped over his head.
Yeah, you hate to give teams extra outs. It's tough play for Searles. We already mentioned earlier how tough it can be as a catcher having to throw that mask off, find the ball, and then hopefully not trip over yourself and look like an idiot. But regardless, right now, we're hopeful Dan Mantoni can come out here and get out of things.
0-1 count to Adams, and a fastball in there for 0-2. It certainly didn't affect Mantoni too much. Zajac over there at first base. He didn't play in game number 1. Hasn't been on too many times this season, just his 8th hit of the season. 1 for 1 in stolen bases. This Eastern team doesn't run too often. 0-2 offering a little bit high. Try to get Adams to chase, and it's 1-2.
I tell you, we're already well-versed in the Dan Mantoni fan club up here in the press box, but I think if he continues to perform like this, you mentioned just a sophomore, over the next couple of years, his name will be spreading like wildfire throughout Beaconville.
1-2 count here. The offer, and that ball hit right back up the middle. Nice piece of hitting by Adams. Zajac will hold it second, and Eastern in business for the first time all game. Back-to-back singles, and Andrew Scully with one swing of the bat could make this game, well, more of a game. It's a 4-0 Beacons lead. The Beacons capitalizing on errors by the Warriors in both the third and fourth innings. 1 in the third, 3 in the fourth. And now Mantoni's going to have to work out of a jam for the first time today.
Yeah, now you see why that play behind the plate where Searles couldn't catch the ball is so huge. It allows Adams a second chance and a reprieve, and he delivers. 2 men on base, nobody out. First real inauspicious beginning to an inning for Mantoni. We'll see what he does and what he has left in that right arm.
Scully came into the day hitting .377, 5 doubles, 2 homers, 2 triples, and 17 RBI. We haven't seen him produce too much today. Did have a single and an RBI in game number 1. Here in game number 2, flew out to center and reached on an error by the shortstop Bouvier. So he's looking for his first extra base hit, and decent speed on the base pass for Eastern. The one thing you don't want to do is run into an out right now for the Warriors down by 4. Ball softly fouled off, and it's quickly 0-2 as Mantoni, despite the jam, is continuing to work efficiently, and he's just moving so quickly that this game is flown by in comparison to game number 1.
Well, both pitchers have done a good job. Gonzalez has been let down by his defense. In fact, a self-inflicted defensive wound opened up the floodgates in the 4th inning. Mantoni, however, is hitting those strike zones like you said.
Just off the corner for ball number 1. Hour and a half into game number 2. Might even be a little bit less as we didn't start quite at 3 o'clock. And we're already in the top of the 6th. Game number 1 took just about 2 hours and 40 minutes as Mantoni looks in for the sign from Anthony Searles. This battery, a pair of sophomores, both with bright futures. 1-2 offering, fouled off down the right field line. And that one will take a bounce off the concourse and exit the facilities here at Campanelli Stadium. We'll try to get you a score update from that Western Connecticut State Keene doubleheader, as Western was up big at Keene in game number 1 in a matchup of undefeated team versus winless team in Little East Conference play. As Western out to a 4-0 start to the year in conference play, Keene at 0-4. Keene was actually picked to finish in a tie for 6th in the conference. Western was picked to finish in dead last in 8th with just 13 points, but they have been the big surprise team in conference play, already with a sweep of Southern Maine. And Tony looks back in second. His 2-2 offering hits softly. Another one of those check swings we've seen a couple times today here in game number 2 is the Eastern batters just don't seem confident with where the ball is going to go.
Seth, after a 14-7 win in the opener, that doubleheader from Keene State, Western Connecticut leads 2-1 in the bottom of the third inning against the Owls.
Well, a pitcher's duel there. A little bit of a better result for Keene State after giving up 13 runs through the first 5 innings in game number 1. Tony's 2-2 offering that one just a little bit low apparently, and the count runs full.
That is incredible. Western Connecticut picked to finish dead last and really screaming through on their way to perhaps 6-0 if they can hold on to that one-run lead in the conference. An impressive resurgence for Western Connecticut.
Well, it's even more incredible in that 2 years ago they finished 6th in the conference with Connor Bierfeld, who's now in the Baltimore Orioles organization, as that's just inside. And the bases are loaded after the walk there to Scully. Last season, the team was just down in the dumps, nothing going their way. I'm almost certain that they missed the conference tournament, finishing either 7th or 8th place. And now to be number 1, just short of halfway through, play a 14-game conference schedule, it's just made all the more impressive because, yes, Keene State's the bottom of the barrel, but they've also topped Southern Maine, who's supposed to be towards the top. So, I mean, it's not like they've played the cupcakes of the Little East Conference schedule and still have the heart of it to go, as we'll see Brendan Eigerbrodt and Anthony Searles come out to talk to Dan Mantoni.
Yeah, I mean, things all of a sudden, Seth, getting a little scary here. Oh, my stars and garters. They've got the bases loaded, nobody out. A leadoff single, followed by another single, now a walk. And the cleanup hitter, Corey Keene, who's already got 2 bombs this year, could tie this one up with one swing.
Well, it's interesting. You not only have the meeting at the mound, the third base coach just came out to talk to one of the Eastern assistant coaches who's not the manager to talk about maybe a hit and run, some kind of play, but it was an interesting look because now he's going to come over and maybe he's talking about who to warm up potentially in the bullpen, as Gonzalez did have a pretty high pitch count back in the 4th inning, or maybe even a pinch runner if it gets to that.
Maybe they're finding out what they're having for dinner tonight. In the end, the world will never know.
First pitch bounces away from Searles, but the runner will hold up at third base. That's Zajac. So the Beacons catch a break. 1-0 count here to Corey Keene. Keene flew out to right field in the second, hit into a 5-4-3 double play back in the 4th inning. Zajac at third. He hit a single out to left field. Chad Adams singled up the middle. He's at second. And Andrew Scully, who just drew the full count walk, is over at first base. 1-0 offering again inside, just a little bit too far inside, and the count runs to 2-0.
All of a sudden, Dan Mantoni has seen adversity strike after back-to-back singles, a walk, and now 2 consecutive balls. The big right-hander may be showing some signs of fatigue in the 6th inning.
Just 1 walk thus far, 2 walks thus far as the ball's hit over to the third baseman. Barker's going to try to go for the double play over to Lopez, and he gets the force. So the Beacons get one of the lead runners. The run comes home. It's 4-1, and the double play is still intact here with 1 out of the inning.
Yeah, it's an okay play. I mean, you always want to at least try to get the double play. You probably would have gotten the lead runner at home if you came home with it. But with a 4-run lead, they're willing to just take an out, take as many outs as they can get. They're willing to sacrifice, I think, another one here to get another out. And if they can escape this inning, at least up 4-2, I think that Brendan Eigerbrodt will view it as at least not a substantial negative after the way the inning began.
Kyle Hart's been the only guy who's had any kind of success against UMass Boston coming into this inning. He had the only 2 hits, a pair of singles, one down the right field line, one down the left field line, and he has a chance here to cut the deficit in half, maybe more. Hart, the 5-hole hitter and right fielder. Over at third base, that's Chad Adams. He's singled. And at first base, Corey Keene reached on the fielder's choice. Ball hit hard out to center field. The run's going to come home. And Keene is going to elect to hold up at second base. So all of a sudden, Eastern has started to heat up as Adams took his time coming home there. The Beacons actually might have had a play. Adams moving so slowly. But now 2 runners on at first and second. Now the 3rd hit of the inning. And Pat Soroyas has a chance with a ball into the gap to potentially tie it here. Soroy is 0 for 2. Hit into a ground out to the third baseman and struck out swinging. As now Tessa Martin, the Beacons assistant trainer, is running over to the Eastern dugout, and she's going to attend to one of the Eastern players. This is interesting. We saw Adams struggling earlier, but it doesn't look like Adams, the guy who's being attended to right now. We'll get back to the play. It's Soroyas on as he hits it right back up the middle, and that ball's going to take a hop, and one run's going to come in to score, and that's what you want to do. Replace the guys who are out there. So all of a sudden, 4-3 here. 4 hits in the inning. Soroyas picks up the RBI single, and Joe Perez will step up. And we'll see if the Beacons get someone going. There's no activity out there in the Beacons pen. Eastern doesn't look like they're too busy either. As Mantoni, after breezing through the first 5, allowing just 2 hits and 1 walk, has allowed 4 hits and a walk, and has just 1 out in the frame as Eastern has cut the deficit from 4-0 to 4-3.
It's Andrew Scully who the trainer's attending to, for those who wondered.
Joe Perez struck out looking the second, struck out swinging in the 5th. He's a leader on this team. Heading the count 1-0, and Anthony Searles will once again come out to talk to Dan Mantoni.
Scully is the player who broke up the double play opportunity on the 5-4 fielder's choice during Keen's at-bat, so perhaps nicked himself up, sliding into second base. How about Kyle Hart, Seth Orensky? 3 for 3 with 3 singles today against Dan Mantoni. The rest of the Little East Conference should be calling up Mr. Hart, finding out exactly what he sees and whether or not he can see any tips that Mantoni's given away.
Well, how about Kyle Hart? He went 1 for 5 in game number 1. He's got 4 hits on the day. That's easily tops amongst all the Warriors. Perez takes another pitch inside, 2-0. Mantoni's found himself behind more in this inning than he had in all of the first 5 innings combined.
Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't even have an out if it wasn't for that fielder's choice. Single, single, walk, fielder's choice, single, single.
2-0 pitch from Mantoni. That one catches the corner, 2-1. And it's interesting, you were saying go home. If Barker had taken the base runner out at third base, it might have given the Beacons a chance to at least keep this at a 4-2 game, as Barker most likely would have beaten him to the bag, trying to go for 2 and really get Mantoni out of the jam. As that pitch is up and in, 3-1, nearly caught Perez, who can't be happy about it. Perez was hit by a pitch. It was a breaking ball, though, in the back in game number 1. That one would have hurt quite a bit more.
Looks like Brian Kaufman is warming up for the Beacons, freshman right-hander in the bullpen.
Kaufman's been a very good reliever for UMass Boston as of late. He came on in last weekend's Little East Conference doubleheader against Rhode Island College in game number 1. Just misses the corner. Second walk of the inning, third of the game for Mantoni. And he's in a real bind here. The bases are loaded for the second time in this inning. And Mike Funaro, who has a pair of groundouts to the second baseman, Josh Lopez, will step up.
Actually, looks like they're going to bring in a pinch hitter again, Seth. DJ Scavone coming on in. He started game 1. 6'4", 220-pounder. Is a big man and an opportunity here to put his big footprint on this game in a 1-run lead for the Beacons.
Scavone was the 2-hole hitter in game number 1. He went 0 for 4 with 4 groundouts, 2 to the left side, 2 to the right side. He was the first baseman in game number 1, coming in for Mike Funaro, the shortstop. As the Beacons are in at the corners here with the bases loaded. Middle infielders at double play depth.
And another first pitch ball here in this 6th inning. After really hitting the strike zone all of the first 5 innings, things have really fallen apart for Dan Mantoni.
1-0 with 1 out. The base is full of Warriors. Fastball down Broadway, 1-1. The Beacons with 4 runs on 4 hits and 1 error. Eastern Connecticut State, 3 runs on 5 hits and 4 errors. Bases full of Warriors here with just 1 down. 1-1 pitch hit hard out to right field. This ball has a chance to get out of here. Going back on to Sanchez, and that one is gone. A pinch hit grand slam from DJ Scavone, and all of a sudden the Warriors lead 7-4 here in the top of the 6th inning. As you knew it from the start, that ball was absolutely belted out there, hitting well above the fence in right field. And Eastern, after getting 2 hits in the first 5 innings, have erupted for 7 runs, every single one of them earned, and that should do it for Dan Mantoni as Brendan Eigerbolt makes his second mound visit of inning number 6.
Well, I'll tell you what, the Warriors coaching staff just earned their paychecks for the year on that one. An impressive decision to bring DJ Scavone out of the dugout and send the left-handed hitter out there to pinch hit. Dan Mantoni came into this 6th inning having allowed only 3 hits through 5. He ends up leaving with 1 out, getting just 1 out on a fielder's choice, having given up 5 hits and 7 base runners in the 6th inning alone.
Yeah, final line on Mantoni allowing 7 runs, 7 earned, 7 hits. And he also finished with 6 strikeouts. So not the kind of outing the Beacons were hoping. And now Brian Kaufman needs to come in and settle the Beacons down. The most important thing right now, if you're Kaufman, is get a couple of quick outs to get your bats back up there, as Orlando Gonzalez all of a sudden is in line for a win after he committed that really bad error. As we look at the line on Brian Kaufman, who pitched in that game against Salem State the other day, as he went 3 innings allowing 2 hits, 5 strikeouts, and he's a guy who can get the strikeout. Kaufman, a 2.00 ERA, making his 5th appearance, 9 innings, 7 hits, 2 runs, 2 earned, 11 strikeouts. Opponents hitting .241 against him, is yet to issue a free pass. And you talk about the walks coming back to bite you. 2 walks in that inning. A couple of hard hit balls. There wasn't really anything soft.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of points in that inning that you can look at and say, oh, that's the turning point. Whether it be Searles unable to make that catch on the pop-up with Adams up, that would have been the first out and kept a man at first base. Instead, the floodgates opened up. Or you could say on the 5-4 fielder's choice if they had gone either to third or home. But in the end, it's on Dan Mantoni. He's been great all season. He's a great hitter. I'd imagine he's going to stay out there as the designated hitter, so we'll see him again. But in the end, he started falling behind hitters. He just lost his fastball command that he had for the first 5 innings, and it came back to bite him. That's just what happens some days. They threw up a touchdown here in the 6th inning. It's 7-4 now. Still plenty of baseball left, though, if the Beacons can come back.
Well, Andrew Girard is the 9th hitter in the lineup and the 9th hitter to come up to the plate against the Beacons here in this 6th inning, as he'll face Brian Kaufman and immediately fouls that one off. Girard struck out swinging back in the 5th inning. He came on as a pinch hitter and ended the inning. 0-1 here to Girard as Kaufman looks to get the Beacons up here in the bottom of the 6th, maybe in answers. That one's blooped foul down the left field line. That one was fair. It might have been extra bases, hit just hard enough to get over Coley Barker, but not much on it. It would have been a difficult play for Delvis Baez to keep Girard, even as a catcher, to just the 1 base. So now 0-2. Kaufman with 11 strikeouts already this season in 9 innings of work, looking to add to that total. This is 0-2 pitch. Swung on it and missed. That one was filthy. And that's the 2nd strikeout for Girard today. First of the game for Brian Kaufman.
Been a tough season for the backup catcher. 0 for 10 now for Andrew Girard. And now it's going to turn the lineup over yet again. Jeffrey Zajac stepping in. He is 2 for 3 with a walk.
Yeah, he started this whole inning off. He singled out to left field, came in to score. And he's up for the 2nd time this inning. He's reached base twice, a single and a walk. Also struck out looking as he was the first of 6 strikeout victims for Dan Mantoni.
1 for 2 with a walk. Correct.
Zajac steps in ahead in the count, 1-0 here, as he will watch that pitch go wide, 2-0. Beacons playing him to pull as Coley Barker is way in and way off the bag. Bouvier and Lopez at the edge of the outfield grass. 2-0 pitch to Zajac. Down the middle for strike 1. Eastern with 7 runs on 5 hits and 2 walks here in the 6th inning as they exploded after being completely shut down by Dan Mantoni through the first 5. This one might be playable down the left field line in foul territory, getting out of play, though, as Coley Barker chased after it and There was no chance that Colby was going to make that play unless this was maybe one of the old-time ball fields where there was a ton of foul territory.
Ebbets Field out there, so much foul territory. An update from Keene State. Western Connecticut has extended their lead 4-1 over the Owls in the top of the fourth inning on their way to perhaps a doubleheader sweep and a perfect 6-0 conference record.
2-2 pitch, grounded softly down the first base line, and it'll be given over to Kaufman. A nice play by Nagel. And the Beacons get out of it, but not before Eastern Connecticut State strikes for 7 here in the top of the 6th. We head to the bottom of the 6th. Can the Beacons get some runs back? They trail for the first time here in game number 2, 7-4. One change to let you know about for Eastern Connecticut State. Christian Budzik, who was the Game 1 shortstop, is back into the game as DJ Scavone, well, he had a pretty good moment in this game. A pinch hit grand slam in his only plate appearance. He'll take a seat.
I'd say it's an Oscar-worthy cameo for DJ Scavone.
Yeah, a pretty decent job there for Scavone to give his team a 7-4 lead. Trevor Bouvier, the Beacon shortstop, will look to start a little bit of a rally here against Orlando Gonzalez. Gonzalez, who hasn't had his best outing, came in at 1-0, 2.28 ERA, has a chance to move to 2-0 as right now Dan Mantoni would be in line for his first losses. Bouvier will take that one for a strike. Big breaking ball 1-2 to the Beacon shortstop, who today has a double and also struck out against Orlando Gonzalez. 1-2 offering. That one swung on and missed. Gets away from the catcher. Gerard will take his time to throw down. Not throwing too hard, but it's there in time. And that's out number 1 of the inning.
Yeah, good pitching for Gonzalez, getting Bouvier a couple of times here today on curveballs. The one time Trevor did connect on a hard double his last time up. He jumped on a first pitch fastball. So clearly Trevor against the southpaw has the issue with the hook. We'll see if Ezekiel Sanchez can have any more luck.
That's the 6th strikeout victim for Orlando Gonzalez. As the first pitch to Sanchez swung on, fouled back to the stop for strike 1. Sanchez flew out to right field in the 2nd inning, singled through the left side, and came in to score in the 4th inning. He came around to score on the 2-base error by Orlando Gonzalez as Sanchez came in all the way from first base on the bunt, the sacrifice bunt from Anthony Searles, but he's behind 0-2. And right now Orlando Gonzalez looks like a different pitcher pitching with a lead.
Yeah, he's retired 6 consecutive batters since that 2-base error that led to a couple of runs in the 4th.
High fastball. Sanchez manages to hold off on that one. 1-2 here.
Pretty amazing when you think about it. Sometimes adversity can bring out the best in certain players, and after he made that colossal error himself, he settled down.
Gonzalez, the Southern New Hampshire University transfer, breaking ball outside. Doesn't quite curve the way he was looking for, and it's 2-2 right now. Remember, Eastern did not throw their big bullpen arm, Adam Merritt, the team's closer in game number 1, so the Beacons would like to strike sooner rather than later, knowing that Merritt could come on for the 9th, maybe even the 8th and the 9th if Matt LeBranch elects to go that way as the count runs full here to Ezekiel Sanchez with one out in the bottom of the sixth.
It's a big pitch coming up because Sanchez can wreak havoc on the base pass, and while it is a 3-run game, you don't want to give free base runners.
3-2 pitch, fouled back. A nice job of Sanchez of staying alive as that one's just to our right off the big Brockton Rocks logo behind home plate. Sanchez to be followed by Anthony Searles, and if it gets there, Coley Barker. The Beacons with 5, 6, 7 up here in the sixth. That ball's hit out to left field, tailing foul, and it'll get out of play. As this is now an 8-pitch at bat here between Gonzalez and Sanchez. Gonzalez has to be getting up there with the pitch count. He was in the 50s in the fourth. We're here in the sixth inning at Campanelli Stadium in the Beacons home opener. We've already gotten one win, looking for the second. Sanchez hits that one. This one is going to be fair. That ball is deep towards the line, and it's gone. An absolute bomb from Ezekiel Sanchez, the second homer of the day for the Beacons. And the Beacons get one back, trailing 7-5 here in the bottom of the sixth inning.
Another off-speed pitch. This time, however, Sanchez read it like a book, launched it into left field. And boy, oh boy, is that a good feeling for Ezekiel Sanchez. A little bomb to left field. That one was a no-doubter.
Yeah, that one hitting off of the what's going on at the Rock sign out behind the two teams' bullpen, and it was pretty high up off of that sign, which is a solid 10, 15 feet off the ground behind the bullpens, and that was easily the deepest ball we've seen hit today. Scavone's was pretty well hit. That ball a little bit better, and that's the second home run of the day for the Beacons. And the first homer of the year for Ezekiel Sanchez in his first season with the Beacons. Anthony Searles up now, heading the count 1-0, looking to capitalize maybe on Gonzalez being a little bit shaky. That's a great fastball, though, from the southpaw, and it's 1-1.
5'8", 180 is what Sanchez is listed as, and he used every pound of that 180-pound frame to launch that one into orbit.
1-1 pitch. This one's hit out hard to right field. If it's fair, it's going to be extra bases. It's down the line, and Searles is thinking too. The right fielder, Kyle Hart, is over into the corner, and he'll field it. And the Beacons have back-to-back extra base hits here, trailing by 2, with Coley Barker stepping up to the plate.
Yeah, bottom of the order for the Beacons, really in the duration of this doubleheader, have come to play for Brendan Eigerbrote's club. Barker right now 0 for 2, but a chance to drive in the sixth run of the game with a base hit, and then you have Sal Frascino after, who has been absolutely spectacular all season long from the left side of the dish.
Well, and one of the interesting things is Brendan Eigerbrote elected to start Todd Easold in game number 1 as the Beacons tried to give Anthony Searles a little bit more rest. Well, Searles now, in just his fourth at-bat of the day, has that big double. Maybe he's a little bit tired, weary if he'd already caught all of these innings. The Beacons got good production out of Easold. Now they have a fresher Anthony Searles, as Gonzalez already at 105 pitches. The bullpen does have a lefty getting warmed up. The Beacons with Harlan Zier up in the pen as well. And for Eastern, they have a couple of options out of the pen as lefties. We've already seen Matt Dorsey. And it would either be, well, Dorsey's the only player listed as a pitcher, so saw Dorsey get roughed up for that 2-run double in the bottom of the eighth. He took the loss in game number 1, and unless one of these position players who's listed as a lefty also pitches, Zach Wilkins is one of those options. It probably is Matt Dorsey who would be checking in for Orlando Gonzalez, with Frascino the lefty due up next. First pitch to Barker. He was looking first pitch fastball. Swing and a miss there for strike 1. Beacons do go lefty, lefty, righty, righty, lefty coming up, so looking for that lefty-lefty matchup, as Frascino will be followed by Delvis Bias if they can get to him. 1 out of the inning. Runner on second is Anthony Searles. 0-1 pitch, fouled off, and Barker behind in the count 0-2. Coley 0 for 2 in game number 2. Flew out to left field and struck out swinging thus far.
Yeah, it's 35 out there. Dorsey warming up if this inning continues.
0-2 pitch with 1 out. Barker swings and misses at the high fastball. And that's a big second out for Orlando Gonzalez after giving up back-to-back extra base hits. And Matt LeBranch is going to go to his pen here in game number 2. It'll be a lefty versus lefty matchup. And we'll take a break as Matt Dorsey comes out to replace Orlando Gonzalez, as Gonzalez will give up the ball. Dorsey struggled in game one. We'll see what he's got here in the second contest. Matt Dorsey is indeed the relief pitcher coming on. He took the loss, moving to 0-3 on the season. In one inning of work, he allowed 2 hits, 2 runs, none of them earned, and had a strikeout in game number 1 as he came on in the 8th inning. Sal Frascino, the first batter that he'll face, had a push bunt for a single that was big in game number 1, as Daniel Mantoni had the big 2-run double after an error by Dorsey sparked the Beacons in that inning, as Dorsey will look to retire Frascino this time around and keep Orlando Gonzalez in line for the win. The Beacons already have 1 run here in the bottom of the 6th inning after Eastern Connecticut State struck for 7 in the top half of the inning. Anthony Searles out there at second base for Sal Frascino. Frascino hits that one towards the left side and foul for strike 1. Frascino so far here in game number 2 is 1 for 1 with a bunt single, a stolen base, and a run scored, and a sacrifice fly back in the 4th inning. Hitting out of the 9th spot today in game number 2 after leading off in the first contest. 0-1 pitch. That one got down fast. The throw down to third base, and it's not in time. That's a dangerous play. They say you never want to make the last out at third base. Searles, though, a catcher, knew just how far that ball was getting away potentially, and that's a big 90 feet. If another ball gets away, you make it 7-6. Calculated risk there by Anthony Searles. Count 1-1 here to Frascino. Single would easily score Anthony Searles. As the 1-1 offering, a little bit high and outside, 2-1. Dorsey, the only lefty out of the pen for Matt LaBranche. Just 2 lefties total on this team. He and Orlando Gonzalez, who have both pitched in this one, as that's a nice job by the backstop Gerard, who came on as a pinch hitter. Keep that in front of him, and it's 3-1.
And we've seen Dorsey fall behind hitters in his first performance this afternoon in Game 1, and we're seeing him fall behind again here. Well, in Game 1, it led to a big extra base hit for 2 runs. We'll see what happens.
3-1 offering. That one should be playable. It's popped up on the third base line. Getting under it is Adams and making the play in foul territory. The Beacons get 1 run, but they strand a runner over at third base. Eastern Connecticut State holding a 7-5 lead after that big 7 runs in the top half of the 6th inning.
Brian Kaufman will be working in his first full inning of relief work. And for Seth Orensky, I am John Skudras, rejoining you here on the play-by-play. It'll be Chad Adams opening things up, the third baseman for the visiting Warriors. He's 1 for 3 today, singled and scored as part of that 7-run sixth inning against Dan Mantoni. Right-handed hitters ready. Big wind-up from Kaufman, and the first pitch is a two-seamer right there on the inside corner for strike one.
Liked what we saw out of Kaufman in the sixth inning, coming on a relief with Dan Mantoni, getting a strikeout and an easy ground out, exactly what the Beacons needed.
0-1 pitch. That one's on the outside corner as well with a fastball, and it's 0-2. Kaufman doing a good job of hitting his spots, pounding the strike zone early on, which is something Mantoni did well for 5 innings. Unfortunately, things fell apart in that sixth. Beacons still within fighting distance as this one's grounded over to second base, and an easy play made there as the Beacons go 4-3 for the first out of the inning. It'll bring up Andrew Scully, who nicked himself up a little bit, sliding into second during that sixth inning. No rest for the weary, though. He's back out here in the seventh.
And I think, if nothing else, if the Beacons were to lose this game, the one big positive for head coach Brendan Eigerbolt would be the fact that the Beacons have played such good defense today. Just 2 errors on the board through 15 innings, and you can't ask for much more than that. I mean, this is Division III baseball. You're going to make some mistakes, but to only have 2 and to not be big-time errors that led to a lot of runs, that's a positive after the Beacons have been error-prone, especially in years past.
Yeah, by comparison, 9 errors so far in this 15 innings of this doubleheader for the Eastern Connecticut Warriors. Not sure where that one missed. Must have been low. And it's 1-1 to the designated hitter here in Game 2, Andrew Scully. Kaufman ready out of the windup. 1-1 pitch. Nice breaking ball, but misses inside. 2 balls and 1 strike to number 4, Andrew Scully. Today, Scully is 0 for 2. He flew out, reached on an error, and walked. There's the 2-1 from Kaufman, and that one's grounded up the third base line. It's off the foot, in fact, of Scully, and he just can't catch a break as he got hurt the last time out, and now he hits one right off the top of his foot. Umpire does call time.
The home plate umpire called that a fair ball. He was saying that ball was fair. The base umpire is now going to come, and they're going to have that discussion. Eastern convinced that it hit him, but if the base umpire didn't see it, and they will, there's a discussion now, and they do agree, but the home plate umpire completely had no idea that ball had hit, and he was telling the third baseman to throw it over to first base. So, good little bit of conversation. Now, Brendan Eigerbolt's going to see, hey, what's going on? I thought I had it out. And you can understand that. The entire Eastern team was yelling, and honestly, when a batter is limp, hanging over himself and looking at his foot like that, normally he's going to get the benefit of the doubt.
Well, he did, and Scully will get another opportunity with the count 2 balls and 2 strikes. 1 out here in the top half of the 7th inning. Kaufman ready. 2-2 pitch. Right-hander. Nice slider, and that one just a bit low. Almost got the knees to buckle there of Scully, but resulting count will be 3-2.
And it's when the Beacons have issued free passes today that they've really got themselves in trouble.
3-2 delivery, and that one is grounded up the third baseline foul. You called it. Dan was doing a great job. Mantoni was doing a great job through 5 innings. And then in the 6th inning, it was the command that just eroded. And then eventually, the lead eroded and dissolved on a grand slam by Scavone. It's 7-5, Eastern Connecticut State. The 3-2 pitch is low ball 4 and a 1-out base runner for the Warriors here in the 7th inning.
And even in game number 1, Kyle Zatrowski, I believe he only had 1, maybe 2 walks, but one of his walks definitely led to a run. And it's interesting, we saw Matt Dorsey get the final out of that 6th inning, a right-hander up in the bullpen, and that'll likely do it for Dorsey. More of a situational outing here in game 2 after working a full inning in game number 1.
The batter will be Corey Keene, first baseman for these Warriors. Keene today is 0 for 3, reached on a fielder's choice in his last at-bat, as this one is bunted foul. It's 0-1 to Corey Keene.
And Anthony Searles, in his rush to throw the ball down and get the lead off, or the lead runner, must have picked that ball up in foul territory. That's the only explanation there, as it didn't look like that ball came up and hit Keene in the batter's box.
It's 0-1 to Corey Keene as Kaufman gets the sign, takes a peek at Scully at first, and the right-hander delivers, and an off-speed pitch is fouled up to our right, off of the Brockton Rock sign and then down below. Souvenir for a lucky fan. If anybody dares, as it trickles down the seats, it might actually come right to Giereszkowski and our fellow UMass Boston athletes, I should say, and it did. So souvenir for a lucky fan. And with a 0-2 count, with one out, a big pitch coming up for Kaufman and company. Swung on and missed. He struck him out. So Brian Kaufman, who came into this game without a walk all season, if I'm not mistaken, Seth Orensky. Yeah, 0 walks, 11 strikeouts. Just gives up his first walk, but counters it with his 13th K.
13-1, a pretty good ratio, especially for a freshman pitcher. And you can see why. He peppers the strike zone. He's got a little bit of pace to that fastball, and there was a nice job there challenging Keene with 2 strikes and got him to go up the ladder a little bit. And it's a good spot here as he faces Kyle Hart, who's been red hot here in Game 2.
Yeah, Kyle Hart's 3 for 3. All of them against Mantoni, and all of them singles. However, the last one in that 6th inning brought in a run, continued the inning, and eventually culminated in the grand slam that turned this one right on its end. 7-5 game now, that one in the dirt. Scully's going to have to park it at first, as no chance for him to run on Searles, who's got a good arm. It's 1-0 to the right fielder, Kyle Hart.
Well, John, you talk about his 3 singles. Eastern has 7 hits today, 7 runs. 6 of them have been singles. One of them was hit a little bit harder. DJ Scavone's grand slam just comes back so much right now because the Beacons got 1 run back. They nearly got his second. But that 3-run deficit, if that ball isn't over the fence, the Beacons might be even right now. And you look, game number 1 went 7-5 UMass Boston's way. Well, these 2 teams split last year. It was Eastern 3-0 in game 1, 3-2 in favor of the Beacons in game number 2. These teams are always very, very close when they play. And this is a big opportunity for Eastern to earn a split when it looked like the Beacons were going to roll to a sweep.
Yeah, tough 6th inning for the Beacons, giving up 7 runs after they led 4-0. It's now 7-5 after the Beacons got a run back in the bottom of the 6th inning. Kaufman's behind 2-0 here to Hart. Here's the pitch. That one is swung on and missed. Strike 1. 2 balls and 1 strike with 2 outs here in the top half of the 7th inning. For the Beacons, in the bottom half of the 7th inning, if you're wondering, they will have the top of the order. So the Beacons have plenty of magic left. 9 outs to go in this ball game as the delivery at 2-1 is grounded to third. Short way to second goes Coley Barker, and the inning is over. So the Beacons end up getting out of this one relatively unscathed. They do allow the 1-out walk to Andrew Scully, but a 5-4 fielder's choice retires the side. It's stretch time here from Campanelli Stadium. We go to the bottom of the 7th inning. 7-5 Warriors on the Beacons Broadcasting Network. Matt Dorsey remains in the game for at least one more batter. The southpaw who entered in the 6th inning to face Sal Frascino. We got him to pop out to third base. He'll get another opportunity against the left fielder Delvis Baez, a left-handed hitter. So southpaw on southpaw crime coming up. Beacons trailing 7-5 here on the Beacons Broadcasting Network. Seth Orensky is to my right. I am John Skudras, and Delvis Baez is on your screen as he steps into the left-handed batter's box. Beacon's left fielder today is 0 for 3. He reached base on an error to begin the game and flew out to left and center respectively. Dorsey, big left-handers ready from the windup. The first pitch is low, ball 1. 1 ball and no strike to Baez. It'll be Delvis, Josh Lopez, and Dan Mantoni due up. Mantoni, of course, remains the designated hitter despite leaving the mound in the 6th inning. There's the 1-0. That one is on the outside corner. Tough pitch. 1 ball and 1 strike.
And this is a situation where Baez is the guy you want up the plate. You're not the tying run. You just want to get on base any way you can, and he's yet to reach on a hit or a walk today. It's 2 tough pitches. Both of them looked like they were a little bit off the outside corner, but it's behind the count 1-2.
Curveball there, nips the outside of the plate. And Dorsey knows if he gets him here, it's likely the end of his day. Here's the 1-2 pitch. That one off the outside and low. Although, I don't see anybody warming up right now.
Looks like there's a righty already warm
Probably.
who was warming up in between the half inning. The Beacons have a lefty up in Harlan Zirup, potentially for the next half inning.
Here's the 2-2 pitch, and Baez chops this one between second base and the bag as this one is gobbled up and fired on over. Good play made by the second baseman Zajac, and there's one down here in the 7th inning. The batter's going to be Josh Lopez. Josh is 0 for 3. He reached on an error and drove in a run. UMass Boston desperately would appreciate if Lopez could get on base in front of Mantoni and Nagel, their big run producers, and it looks like they will keep Dorsey out there, at least against the Beacon's second baseman. That one's in the dirt. 1 ball and no strikes.
Well, John, we came in thinking that Matt Dorsey was a lefty-lefty specialist, but since they only have one in the pen, apparently he's a late inning guy as well. He pitched the full inning in the 8th. They kept him on against some of the righties, and Dorsey's already gone 2/3 of an inning, retiring the 2 lefties he had to face, and now he's going to look to close out this bottom half of the 7th inning. And remember, lurking in the back of that pen is Adam Merritt, the all-conference reliever who's been so good over the past season and a half for Matt LeBranch.
That's outside. 3 balls and no strikes to Lopez, who will have the red light, I would think, here, trying to get the tying run at the plate in the form of your best hitter, Dan Mantoni. Working quickly is Dorsey, 3-0. That one is on the inside corner. Lopez didn't agree, but he'll park it there. 3 balls and 1 strike to the Beacon's second baseman, who is 0 for 3 coming into this at-bat.
Yeah, I would go the exact opposite. I wouldn't give him the green light, hoping to get the walk.
That's foul, just foul to the left of the bag. Gobbled up by Adams, and now it's a full count.
Just trying to find that base runner any way you can. Dorsey struggling with his control, but nice job to get back into it. And now Lopez just trying to get on any way you can. It's tough. Mantoni has home run power. Nagel has home run power. But when you're down 2 and no one's on ahead of you, it doesn't matter, as you can only hit a 1-run homer no matter how deep you hit it.
Dorsey is ready. Here's the 3-2 pitch. That one's lined to shortstop, gobbled up there, and a good play made by Burdick, and that is the second out of the inning. So a line out to short for Lopez. He's 0 for 4. And it'll bring up Dan Mantoni just the way opponents like to face him, with 2 outs and nobody on.
What a play by Christian Budzik. That ball cued over towards the second base bag. He really struggled defensively in game number 1, but he makes a nice play there. And now Dan Mantoni, who hasn't been able to do anything with the bat here in game number 2, he knows he needs to do something to help himself as he wants to avoid that loss number 1 of the season.
You can only imagine what's going through his head. Hitting a baseball is enough of a mind game on its own without knowing that you gave up 7 runs 2 innings ago and haven't played since. Here's the 1-0 pitch, That one is grounded, in the hole between second and first. Great ranging play and an unbelievable play by Jeffrey Zajac from his tuchus. Fires and gets the Beacons' leading hitter, Dan Mantoni, and that retires the side. A little leather larceny from the second baseman. We head to the 8th inning on the Beacons Broadcasting Network. Still 7-5 Warriors. Six outs left for the Beacons, and 6 outs stand between the Warriors and a split of this doubleheader. Right now, the Beacons have to keep this one close. They trail 7-5 as we begin the 8th inning. The leadoff hitter will be Pat Soroyas as he steps into the left-handed batter's box and swats this one into the gap in left center field. No one's going to get there as it's going to fall and split the outfielders. Soroyas is going to probably have 3 as he motors his way around second into third. The throw is late and a one-hop blocked by Barker. And a leadoff triple for Pat Soroyas, exactly what the doctor ordered if the Warriors were looking for some insurance.
Just a great job of going the opposite way, and Soroyas now, who has 2 hits in his last 2 at-bats, puts the Beacons in a difficult spot as UMass Boston will have to bring the infield in for the first time all day. This is a big spot for Joe Perez, one of the leaders on this team. He knows how important this run would be to push the lead back to 3 runs. UMass Boston desperately could use a little bit of help as it looks like the Beacons have one defensive replacement here in the inning as Brian Fiella steps in.
That one launched to center field, should get the run home. Snagged out there in center on the play made by Friseno, and then the throw home is not in time. And so it's an 8th run of the game on the sacrifice fly by Joe Perez as Soroyas comes in. It's 8-5 with 1 out here in the 8th inning, and that is a huge insurance run for the visitors from Eastern Connecticut.
Yeah, not what you're looking for. Kaufman's done a really nice job since coming on in relief of Dan Mantoni. Getting 2 outs in the 6th, retiring the side in the 7th. He's now gone 2 innings, giving up the 1 earned run, and that's not too bad normally, but when you're trailing by 2, you can't afford to give up any more runs, especially here in the 8th inning when the Beacons already needed 2. 3 runs just becomes a little bit more of a monumental scale as UMass Boston, they've talked about it all season long, the need to get sweeps rather than splits. The Beacons took game 1, struggling here in game 2.
Christian Budzik's 1-0 is lifted into right field, gobbled up out there as UMass Boston sees Ezekiel Sanchez in his tracks make the play. That's the 2nd out of the inning. Fly out to right field, and it will bring up Andrew Gerard, who's still looking for his first hit of the season. He's 0 for 10.
Yeah, 2 strikeouts. Both swinging, 1 versus Mantoni, 1 versus Kaufman. And this is a situation where Kaufman just wants to get this final out and give his team a chance.
Leadoff triple's always a pitcher's kryptonite. Even if the team brings the infield in, as you just saw, it's so difficult to limit that run. And that 8th run of the game could end up being pretty costly for UMass Boston, as they now trail again by 3 runs, as they did after 5.5. The 0-1 pitch is grounded to third base. Barker gobbles it up and fires across the diamond for the third out. So the Beacons get out of it without a ridiculous amount of damage done. 1 run is scored on 1 hit, no errors, and no men left on base. We head to the bottom of the 8th inning. It's 8-5 Warriors on the Beacons Broadcasting Network. Matt Dorsey is still on the mound for the visiting Warriors of Eastern Connecticut State. Working into his 3rd inning of work, although just his 2nd inning starting the frame. And Seth Orensky, you would think he would face off against at least Luke Nagel and Trevor Bouvier, 2 lefties, as there aren't any more lefties in the pen for these visitors. And then you might see the aforementioned ace of their bullpen come on in.
I'm done guessing. I've thought that Matt Dorsey was going to come out at several points during his first outing and here in the second outing. Matt Dorsey's been a workhorse. As Matt LeBranch is going to come out and talk to the umpire.
Perhaps he's just discussing things with the catcher right now.
Yeah, well, Andrew Gerard had something attached to the back of his foot. It wasn't toilet paper. It looked like a piece of maybe trainer's tape. But no changes, just trying to help out his catcher. And it'll be Luke Nagel, Trevor Bouvier, the 2 lefties, and 3 straight righties. You have to think if Merritt is healthy, and he wouldn't have pitched since the team's game against Manhattanville on Thursday.
First pitch from Dorsey is over the inside corner for strike 1. We'll find out if Merrick is healthy. I see somebody warming up in the bullpen, a right-hander. Meanwhile, the 0-1 delivery from the lefty Dorsey is a curveball just up and in. It is Luke Nagel, the first baseman. He's 1 for 3. He singled in his first at-bat, struck out and grounded out back to the mound. Dorsey from the stretch, the 1-1 pitch, and that one is chopped over to first base. It's going to be a tough play as the second baseman wasn't there. Nagel dives, and they got him on the back, and oof, a great effort made there by Luke Nagel to get down the line, but Corey Keene just got him on the back with the tag right before he got to first base.
And, my initial reaction was to think that Nagel was safe, but because of the lack of a reaction from Kevin Kelly, the Beacons' first base coach, apparently got the tag down. What a phenomenal diving play that was by the first baseman. And it is, in fact, Merritt out there warming up, the righty in the pen, number 41, the junior closer out of Seymour, Connecticut. So this might be the last batter for Dorsey, and what a phenomenal job with that 3-run lead to keep the Beacons from having a leadoff base runner.
So here's Bouvier, who has a home run in this doubleheader. In Game 2, he's got a double and a run scored. He's 1 for 3 with a couple of Ks. That one was outside for ball 1. Likely the last batter Dorsey will face. Here's the 1-0. That one is on the inside corner for strike 1. 1 ball and 1 strike to the Beacon shortstop.
Trevor Bouvier was very upset with that one, slamming his bat. And he struck out twice in this game. It's not like the strike zone in any way.
1-1 to Bouvier's outside and low. 2 balls and 1 strike. Beacons need to get some base runners here. They're down to their final 5 outs here in Game 2. They won Game 1 7-5 and come from behind fashion. And then the pendulum swung the other way here as this one is just a bit low. 3 balls and 1 strike. The Beacons led this game 4-0 after 5 innings. Dan Mantoni was cruising through the first half of this game, and then It all fell down in that 6th inning, 7 runs as this one's inside for ball 4. So just what the doctor ordered as Matt Dorsey walks Bouvier. And the Beacons have a 1-out base runner for the bottom of their order. And it begins with Ezequiel Sanchez.
Well, what a difference that play at first base makes, though. That tremendous effort from Corey Keene. That would be 2 runners on with the tying run up. And I say that Dorsey's day is going to be done, and of course I'm wrong. Every single time. I think I'm 0 for 4 at this point. Matt Dorsey's going to stay in against the righty. Didn't work in game number 1. We'll see if it works here. Sanchez took him deep to left the last time up. But actually that was against Orlando Gonzalez still. Different lefty. Either way, a home run in his last at bat, the first of the season.
And this one's popped up. It's going to get out of play, though. Heads up for the young fans. And it falls in the trash can right behind them. Lucky souvenir for the duo of little girls who are front row next to the Eastern Connecticut State dugout.
Which, after all of the rain that we've seen in New England, that was a trash can full of water as it took a nice big plop there. And I don't think that the players want to see that ball as that ball is very, very wet.
Yeah, and probably dirty from the trash can. I don't know if I would let my child hang on to that one. Regardless, it's 0-1 as this one's chopped foul up the third baseline. 0-2 to Sanchez, who's quickly in the hole to Matt Dorsey. The dugout for the Warriors were signaling down to the bullpen where Adam Merritt is done warming up now. He's warm. He's ready. So this likely will be the last batter. Deja vu, as we've said that a few times. Here's the 0-2. Inside, and Sanchez is down to one knee as he had to limbo his way out of the way of that one. It's 1 ball and 2 strikes to the Beacons' right fielder. Man on first, that's Bouvier. Dorsey's on the mound, towing the rubber to hurl this one in towards Sanchez. 1-2 pitch. This one's chopped towards short. Unlikely to get 2. Good slide at second, and that's all they'll get. Retiring Bouvier on a 6-4 fielder's choice. And Sanchez advances to first base. 2 down now here in the 8th inning. That'll bring up Anthony Searles, and we'll see what the Warriors decide to do. Searles, a right-handed hitter. And Merritt is warm in the bullpen, and that looks like it won't be it yet for Matt Dorsey.
No, I think Dorsey's going the rest of the way. Doesn't matter if we're going 12 or 13. Matt Dorsey is he's a marathon man.
Somebody get him a Gatorade after the game. He pitched in game 1, gave up a couple of runs. In fact, took the loss in that game. Getting a chance to pick up a save here. This one's on the outside corner for strike 1.
Well, he certainly means a lot to this bullpen. Just his ability to eat up all these innings. At some point, you have to figure that he's brought out just to face the lefties, but he's doing a nice job against the righties as well, giving up just the 2 runs through about 3+ innings of work today.
0-1 pitch is a hook that is cut on and missed wildly by Searles, and all of a sudden, Dorsey's 1 strike away of sending this one to the bottom, or rather to the top half of the 9th inning with the lead intact.
And Dorsey completely changed the momentum of this game. Eastern went up 7-4. The Beacons got a run back, had a runner at third base, and he was able to strand him. And that, since then, the Beacons have been ice cold at the plate, as the Beacons have had 5 of the last 6 batters, 6 of the last 7 retired. The only runner reaching on a walk.
That one was a fastball high, and it's 1 ball and 2 strikes. 2 outs, man on first is Sanchez. Dorsey ready, takes a peek at Sanchez and comes home with it. That one is low. Sanchez delayed steal, and he'll get there in time after the ball bounced in front of Girard. And so a man at second base with 2 outs.
But with that insurance run in the top half of this inning, Sanchez doesn't matter quite as much. So Dorsey can focus on the batter. Sanchez, an elite base runner, can't get into the head of Dorsey, and that makes it a little bit harder on Anthony Searles.
The 2-2 pitch. Just off the inside corner, ball 3. Great eye for Searles as the count is full with 2 outs here in the 8th inning. If Searles reaches, it'll bring the tying run up to the plate in the form of Coley Barker. At least that's who's in the on-deck circle right now. Time called at the plate. That was Searles. He's back in. Sanchez at second base in a 3-run game. Matt Dorsey on the mound. Left-hander ready. The 3-2's inside, ball 4. It gets away, which will allow Sanchez to move up to third. And now the tying run will yet again come up to the plate. And like I expected, they will not see Coley Barker come on up. He will take a seat. And a decision for Brendan Eigerbrodt, but I think they're going to have to wait as Matt Dorsey's day has finally, maybe, perhaps, come to an end.
Well, this is huge. You make the pitching team make the change first if Dorsey is done, and he is, because now that means the Beacons will likely go to Chris Adams, their big left-handed designated hitter, to face off against Mr. Adam Merritt. So an interesting play, because otherwise the Beacons would have likely have gone with Todd Easold.
He's the guy. He's the one who has the batting helmet on and is on the top step. So it looks like they will still go with Todd Easold.
Maybe Chris Adams is dealing with an injury. Maybe they just think that Easold had such a good game one. Either way, big spot here against Adam Merritt, the best pitcher statistically on the roster for Eastern Connecticut State.
Todd Easold in game one went 2 for 4 with a single and a double. Let's hope that he's got more magic left in that stick. We'll be back right here on the Beacons Broadcasting Network. Todd Easold will, in fact, be the pinch hitter for Coley Barker. He represents the tying run here in the 8th inning, and the new pitcher is Adam Merrick. First pitch is outside for a ball. On the season, well, we think we've sung his praises enough. I don't know where I'm looking there. He's 2-0 with a 1.59 ERA. This will be his 12th inning of work. The 1-0 pitch is inside, 2 balls and no strikes. He's allowed 10 hits, 2 earned runs, struck out 12, and walked just 2. He has yet to allow a home run all season long. Easold ahead of the count, 2 balls and no strikes. On the year, Todd has been, well, he's been up and down, hitting .269 as he fouls this one off his foot. It's 2-1. However, Todd does have some power in that stick with a home run and 6 RBI this season coming into today's affair.
And Merritt, the closer for this Eastern team, has 2 saves in the team's 7 total wins. This is a big spot for Eastern Connecticut State, with Western likely moving to 6-0. If they can earn the split, both of these teams will be 3 games back with 8 games to play. Otherwise, Eastern, the defending conference regular season champs, could be 4 games back through just 6 games.
That one is high with a fastball. 3 balls and 1 strike to Todd Easold, with Sal Frascino waiting on deck, a left-handed hitter. The tying run is at the plate. 2 outs here in the 8th inning. Beacons trailing 8-5. Here's the 3-1 pitch. Down and away, ball 4. So Adam Merritt comes in, and he walks the pinch hitter, Todd Easold. And the bases are full of Beacons for Sal Frascino. At least that's who was scheduled to come up. It looks like Sal will take his talents to the bench, and we'll see who they call on. Nick Brothers came out. Actually, no, it's going to be the aforementioned Chris Adams. The big 6'3", 240-pound senior is going to step into that left-handed batter's box.
So Chris Adams will pinch hit for Sal Frascino, which means Charles LaPaglia likely is coming on in center field. Nick Brothers is in the on-deck circle for Delvis Baez. This Beacons lineup is just getting all kinds of mixed up right now, as we've already talked about it off-air, about the Beacons likely moving Luke Nagel over to third base and Daniel Benito coming into the game at first base. We're going to have a lot to sort out in the top of the 9th, but first we've got to sort this out. And this is power versus power. Merritt has some great stuff. Chris Adams is a guy who literally can hit the ball out of this ballpark and onto the road behind right field. He has a ton of pop, but he also strikes out a lot. So the Beacons going for it all right now. Fristino, a better contact hitter, but Adams has the power to tie this game, even potentially give the Beacons a lead with just one swing of the bat. Todd Easold, the slowest of the runners out there. He's on first base. Kind of surprised the Beacons don't pinch run for him.
Well, they're running out of guys to pinch run for. If this game does go to extra innings, barring a Beacons comeback, they might have to ask one of us to come out and
they're going to do it. Brian Dupree's heading over to first base.
It's incredible. I mean, I don't blame them. One in the gap, you want the ability to score, but my oh my, they're going to run out of players eventually.
Well, you always could use a relief pitcher. Remember Kyle Zatrowski? The game one starter was a first baseman last year. He's a very steady base runner, has decent speed, a former soccer player at Agawam High School. So you know what? You can use those relievers. I mean, these guys are athletes. A lot of them played multiple sports back in high school.
Chris Adams is up, 286 on the season, no home runs, 5 runs batted in. Nice pitch. Two-seamer on the outside corner from Merritt, strike one. Always want to get ahead of a pinch hitter. It's always tough. He hasn't played a single inning today, has Adams. Here's the 0-1. This one's launched into left field but out of play and heads up to the ball players playing after this, warming up in foul territory. And now behind in the count, 0-2, and if you're Adam Merritt, you can do whatever you want here against Adams and try and get this last out. Bases full of Beacons. Go-ahead runs at the plate. Here's the 0-2. That one off the outside corner, close pitch. 1 ball and 2 strikes. The dugout for the Warriors wanted that one. Adams gets a reprieve.
I don't know how you take that pitch.
1-2. Just a bit outside. Oh, baby, that was another one that Merritt wanted. And we're evened up. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Bases loaded. The go-ahead run at the plate in the form of pinch hitter Chris Adams. Here's the pitch. Ground ball, second base. It's slowly chopped, but Adams is not swift of foot. And the Warriors get out of the significant damage, and Adam Merritt gets the job done. So the Beacons load the bases without the benefit of a hit, 3 walks and a fielder's choice. However, all the roster moves in the world couldn't get them a run. We head to the top half of the 9th inning. It's 8-5 Warriors on the Beacons Broadcasting Network. So a golden opportunity goes by the wayside for UMass Boston. They loaded the bases without the benefit of a hit. However, Adams grounds out to second to end the inning, and a plethora of roster moves don't make a difference for the Beacons. The new pitcher for UMass Boston is Harlan Zierup, a southpaw. He's 0-0 with a 4.82 ERA. This will be his 6th appearance. 9 1/3 innings. He struck out 13 and walked just 1. Harlan is a senior from Bridgewater, Connecticut. Got a very lefty name, Harlan Zierup. Sounds like a left-handed pitcher if I've ever seen one.
He's also a tremendous tennis player.
Doesn't sound like a tennis player's name, but I'll take your word for it. Does he play for UMass Boston?
Well, the tennis season is
It's
at the
same
same time.
same as
Otherwise,
time.
he probably would.
Who would choose baseball over tennis? That's what I want to know. It's 1-0 as that one's in the dirt. The batter right now is Jeffrey Zajac. The 1-0 pitch is in the dirt and outside. Zajac on the afternoon is 1 for 2 with a walk. Or excuse me, 1 for 3 with a walk. He batted twice in the 6th inning as part of that 7-run frame. Zierup, with some high heat, gets Zajac to cut and foul that one right back into the glove of Searles. A lot of changes for UMass Boston after that last frame. Charles LaPaglia is in the game. He's in center field. That pitch is popped up to left field, and we'll get a chance to welcome Nick Brothers back into the game after he played in Game 1, makes a nice ranging play, and then tumbles over the tarp in left field. All in good fun for Brothers, as that's the first out of the inning here in the 9th. Who else am I missing out there?
Well, you have Brian Fiel at second base. Daniel Benito came on as a defensive change at first base. Luke Nagel is over at third base. And I think we covered it.
And that's how the cookie crumbles. The Beacons put 3 men on in the 8th. Were unable to do so. Made a lot of moves in order to put themselves in position as that one was low for ball 1. The batter is Chad Adams, who has 1 hit today, part of that 6th inning. He's 1 for 4. 1-0 pitch from Zierup is just low. 2-0.
And these shadows are not going to make it any easier for the Beacons bats in the bottom half of the 9th inning.
Beacons will have the top of the order in the form of Nick Brothers, followed by Josh Lopez and Dan Mantoni. Here's the 2-0 pitch. That one is launched into the heavens as that one takes orbit, and that's trouble, and that drops. And freshly entered over into third base is Luke Nagel after he played first all day, and it results in, I think we'd have to call an error against number 6 in white.
And that's one of the problems of putting Nagel over at third base. He's a natural first baseman. I've seen him have some trials and tribulations over there at the third base bag, and that gives Eastern a chance to tack on some extra runs. Runs are going to be at a premium to begin with against Adam Merritt, and now it just becomes a little bit harder.
Zierup out of the stretch. Here's Andrew Scully, and he takes off the inside corner for strike 1. Scully is 0 for 2. He's reached base on an error as well as on 2 bases on balls, so he's seen a lot of action even though he doesn't have a hit to his credit, as the 0-1 is instead a pickoff move to first, not in time. 1 out here in the top half of the 9th inning. If you're just joining us, Beacons won the opener 7-5. Got out to a 4-0 lead with Dan Mantoni on the mound today before giving up 7 runs in the 6th inning, and now Harlan Zierup plunks Scully on the leg, who's had a real tough day. He got hurt sliding into second in the 6th inning, and now is plunked on the leg. He advances to first and second with just 1 out.
Well, and this game was flying along before that 7-run top of the 6th. All of a sudden, we're looking at another 3-hour-plus game here at Beacons Baseball, as there's nothing like a short Beacons baseball game. It happens about once a season.
Corey Keene is up as he takes it inside and low, 1 ball and no strikes. Harlan Zierup working in his first inning of relief. And yeah, it's been a tough day for pitchers and for fielders as well, as this one's launched into orbit deep to left field, and you can write her a postcard because she is long gone. A 3-run home run for Corey Keene, and he has blown this one wide open here in the top of the 9th inning. It's 11-5 Warriors on the Beacons Broadcasting Network. And for Corey Keene, that's home run number 3, tying him with Adams and Hart for the team lead.
Yeah, that was a no doubt about it. Home run. One of those runs unearned. And then you plunk him, and all of a sudden 2 runners on, and the Beacons went from being 1 swing away from taking the lead to needing 6, if not more runs, to extend or potentially win in the bottom of the 9th inning. And Eastern hasn't scored many runs today. They scored 5 runs in game number 1 through the first 5 innings were held scoreless through the next 4. Then they didn't score until the 6th, but 7 runs in that 6th inning and 3 more runs here in the 9th after a single one in the 8th inning. When Eastern scored, they've scored in bunches.
They certainly have, as there's still just one out, and Kyle Hart steps up. He took a couple of balls low, 2-0 to the Warriors' right fielder, who's had himself a heck of a day. 3 for 4 with 3 singles. Zierup delivers. This one's launched into right field. It's going to be a tough play, and I don't think anyone's going to get there, and it's fair as the cavalcade of comedy continues in the outfield for the Beacons. Sanchez can't get there. And here in the 9th inning, the Beacons, who had a chance to tie the game last inning, have allowed error, hit by pitch, home run, and that duck out there in right field. A man's on first base with just 1 out.
That is the hardest place to track down a fly ball in this ballpark. Just so much territory down in that area. Zeke Sanchez playing very far off the line against the right-handed hitter, and then Daniel Benito trying to track it down. Brian Fael playing right now a little bit closer to the bag, but still playing very far away. And all 3 players nearly got there, just not there in time. And this is one of those innings where if you're Harlan Zierup, you just have to try to bear down, get out of the inning. But UMass Boston, they're going to need to show a lot of resolve in the bottom of the 9th just to get any kind of rally going against Merritt. And they saw what looked like a sweep through 5 innings just really disappears. Their chances have gone from, I would say, 60-65% to about 1 or 2% right now, with Merritt the ace of this bullpen in for Eastern Connecticut State.
Yeah, still just 1 out as Zierup delivers a 1-0 pitch. That's on the outside corner. The batter is Pat Soroyas, who had a huge hit in his last at-bat, or at least looked like a huge hit. It was a leadoff triple, Ended up bringing in that 8th run. As the runner goes, swung on and missed. Looks like no contact was made, and so the runner's able to advance to second. He thought about going to third, but Kyle Hart will park it there at second base. And with 1 out, another runner in scoring position for the Warriors, already up 11-5. Amazing how this game is turned. Doesn't seem like very long ago that the Beacons were up 4-0. Everything looked to be peaches and cream for UMass Boston. Instead, Armageddon has arrived. Here's the ground ball, and that's through the hole. A base hit, base knock there for Soroyas, and they're going to send the runner home. Hart, strong throw home is taken in by Searles in front of the base. The run scores, and advancing to second on the throw is the center fielder Soroyas. It's 12-5 Warriors here in the 9th inning.
Well, with the runner taking off from first base towards second base, it caused Brian Fael to move out of position for a ball that he probably would have been able to get to. Ezekiel Sanchez electing to throw the ball home and didn't have a great shot at getting the base runner. Allows the runner to move up to second. Another runner in scoring position. And this game is slowly, completely getting away from the Beacons. At 7-5, the Beacons were right in it. 8-5, still a close game. A 4-run top of the 9th. And this is just a nightmare for UMass Boston as their comeback chances just become slimmer and slimmer.
Yeah, and a nightmare for Harlan Zierup, who had been outstanding all season. There's the first pitch, ground ball, shortstop. Gobbled up there by Bouvier. He fires across the diamond for the 2nd out. Advancing to third is Soroyas, and with 2 outs, it's going to bring up the shortstop, Budzik. Yeah, I mean, like I was saying, Harlan Zierup came into this game, command spectacular. Really, his performances all season have been strong. 13 strikeouts, just 1 walk. He ends up getting jobbed by an error at third base on a pop-up that should have been the 2nd out. Then he plunks Andrew Scully, and the rest is history. 3-run bomb for Conn, and this inning continues outside for ball 1 to the shortstop as Budzik is ahead 1-0.
Well, and John, not to harp on this too much, but the Beacons have 2 home runs. They're both solo shots. Eastern has a grand slam in this game and a 3-run homer. And it's just what happens when you get base runners ahead of some of your big boppers, and when you get those big hits, the Beacons should be happy with their Game 1 victory. Doesn't happen often. Remember, the Beacons just 6-38 going into this game all time against Eastern, but this, we talked about it in between games, was the Beacons' best chance ever to get a sweep of Eastern, and they look like they're going to come a little bit short.
Spoken like someone employed by the team. 12-5 is more than a little bit, as this one's lifted into center field, shading the sun and making the catch out there in center field is the new center fielder LaPaglia. We move ahead to the bottom of the ninth inning. Last chance for romance for the Beacons. They'll need a heck of a love story if they're going to win this one. They're down 7 on the Beacons Broadcasting Network. So the Beacons trailing now by 7 runs, seeing Nick Brothers step into the left-handed batter's box. Brothers came in last inning as a defensive replacement. And they'll have an opportunity to lead things off here against Adam Merritt. Merritt came in the 8th inning. He walked Todd Easold, the first batter he faced, to load the bases. This is back when the Beacons were only down 3 runs. As that one is cut on and missed. 1 ball, 1 strike to Brothers. And then Chris Adams came in as the go-ahead run and grounded out to second on a 3-2 pitch. Swung on and missed. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Nick Brothers. It'll be Brothers, Lopez, and Mantoni. Moments ago, off the air, I said Dan Mantoni would hit a 3-run game-tying home run in the bottom of the 9th. He would have to hit a 7-run home run for that to happen, although Nick Brothers is, what a great play in left field. A fantastic effort by Joe Perez, robbing Nick Brothers of extra bases and putting the Warriors 2 outs from their 8th victory in 2015.
Well, John, not to look ahead too much, but with both of these teams earning a victory today, let's assume that happens, Tuesday becomes even more important. The Beacons travel to Gorham, Maine to take on the University of Southern Maine. Eastern travels to Western Connecticut State to take on the Colonials. Top 2 teams in the conference right now statistically, as Southern Maine nationally ranked, Western probably 6-0. Those games are absolutely huge for these 2 clubs after a doubleheader in which I'm sure both coaches will have some things that they want their teams to work on. Eastern, a lot of errors today, able to overcome here in game number 2. The Beacons unable to finish off what would have been their first sweep ever of Eastern Connecticut State.
This is Brian Fiella for Lopez. Fiella came in as a defensive replacement last inning. He's down 1-2 in the count. For those following along at home, Western Connecticut State did complete the doubleheader as they beat Keene State 4-1 in game 2. In the bottom of the 7th inning, Southern Maine leads Framingham State 10-6. So they're going to get that 3rd interconference victory. So Beacons will be 3-3. Southern Maine will be 3-2, and ECSU will also be 3-3. So a big cluster there fighting for that 4th spot. It's going to be interesting.
Remember, Framingham State, that's a non-conference game.
Oh.
Framingham State does play in the Little East Conference for field hockey.
It's too confusing for me. Little East, ECAC East, Big East, Medium East.
And I think Matt LaBranche right now is having an argument that the Beacons may have never submitted Brian Fiella to the umpires.
Because 2 innings ago.
He came on as a defensive replacement, not in the 8th, but in the 7th inning for Lopez. But the umpire not having any of it, it doesn't matter as Fiella goes down swinging on the foul tip.
I blame the Little East Conference's website. That's where I looked up the scoreboard.
Well, it is a Little East Conference game,
It
and
is.
there is a Little East Conference team playing.
I'm aware of that, Seth. I'm just saying.
Just a little bit of playful banter as we enter hour number 7 on the air.
And the last chance for romance here with 2 outs in the 9th inning is Dan Mantoni. Dan's had a rough day after a spectacular opening game. He gave up 7 runs in the 6th inning as a pitcher and is 0 for 4 as a batter. 0-1 pitch, and, well, he's off the schneid as he delivers a single up the middle to keep this game going. It's his first hit of the afternoon. 1 for 5 is number 7 in white.
1 for 5 in game number 2. I believe he went 2 for 5 in game number 1. Either way, 3 for 10. That's going to drop down his batting average, which sat at .425 to open the day. As the Beacons get that first base runner. They just need 6 more.
Yeah, Luke Nagel would like to keep this one going. He's the third baseman now. Began the game at first, and Nagel takes low for ball 1. Game going on after this. Reckon it's either a high school or a Legion game, as defensive indifference will allow Mantoni to take second base. Up by 7. They'll let Mantoni do whatever he wants out there.
Game to follow if you want to come down and watch high school, as I don't believe there's going to be a broadcast. It's actually Cardinal Spellman High School versus the Brockton Boxers.
Nice. Very good matchup, as those teams anticipate this one ending as well as they join the rest of us up close. Here's the 3-0 pitch, and all of a sudden, that looked off the plate. Regardless, it's strike 1. 3 balls and 1 strike to Luke Nagel, who's trying to keep this one alive for Trevor Bouvier. Here's the 3-1, outside ball 4. So, those 4 runs again in the top of the 9th inning come back and look mighty large because Bouvier would represent the tying run. He already has a home run today. Instead, he's just going to have to try to keep this one going with 2 men on base and 2 outs here in the top, or rather the bottom half of the 9th inning. Beacons will be back at it on Tuesday against Southern Maine, who we just talked about. The Huskies will be 2-2 in the LEC at that time. Beacons likely to be 3-3. Here's the 1-0 pitch, and Bouvier swings and misses at 1 in the dirt. 1 ball and 1 strike. He's looking to avoid the hat trick, already having struck out twice.
Well, at least it won't be the golden sombrero.
4 strikeouts for those who aren't adept at the term, as this one is lifted out of play up the third base line.
Well, it's a term that's been coming up a lot early on in the Major League Baseball season. Had Evan Gaddis with the golden sombrero in back-to-back games, and that's just an impressive feat to not put the ball in play at all.
Here's the 1-2. Called strike 3, and the ball game is over. So Adam Merritt comes in and delivers as UMass Boston, who had a 4-0 lead in this one with their ace on the mound, sees a 7-run 6th inning see their castle come crumbling down. And from a chance at a sweep to a satisfactory split with ECSU. With the win, or rather the loss today and the win earlier, the Beacons are 10-9 overall. Eastern Connecticut State improves to 8-11. Both teams 3-3 in the Little East Conference. And Seth, we went into this game after that 7-5 opener thinking, it's going to be a pitcher's matchup, 2-1, 3-2. Yeah, 17 runs later, it kind of crept up on us. Tough game for Mantoni and the Beacons.
Yeah, and it was just the 1 inning. Rather the 2. 7 runs in the 6th inning, 5 hits, and the big grand slam. DJ Scavone, the hero for Eastern Connecticut State, the pinch hit grand slam, and then a 4-run top of the 9th took away any chances of a Beacons comeback. And if you're UMass Boston, you know you're probably going to make the playoffs. Keene State at 0-6, all but eliminated. Plymouth State was played yesterday, I believe, and they're now 1-5. As they split with UMass Dartmouth as the Little East Conference, trying to update the Little East Conference standings. But the thing is, you need to consistently get these wins. If you forget an at-large bid, if you're going to go anywhere in the Little East Conference tournament, the Beacons went 0-2 and were eliminated last year. And it's these kind of games. Your starting pitchers aren't always going to be perfect. You need to make enough plays behind them. The Beacons made one nice double play, but